Welcome, Saints Nation, back to the Saints Gaming CA Twitch channel. Of course, your home for the St. Clair Saints varsity esports squad. And tonight, or actually this afternoon, for once, it's not tonight again. Gotta get used to that. But we have ourselves a cLoL Collegiate League of Legends action once again. This time it's going to be, of course, our Saints up against University of Toronto, Mississauga. My name is Dan Banner, also known as Mr. Danners. Alongside me today for the first time here on the Saints casting desk, we have Matt Avery. How you doing, Matt?
I'm great. I'm great to be here. It's glad to be here. It's gonna be an exciting series.
It's definitely going to be exciting, looking like a tough one. However, when we were
hmm
peeking at this University of Toronto squad, I don't know what it is about Toronto, but it always feels like every single institution around that area is absolutely stacked. And this Mississauga squad is absolutely no different. Majority of them being either masters or grandmasters, and I think even one challenger at this
hmm
point here. We'll go through that roster in a little bit once the champion select starts, but with our Saints, of course, on paper, they're the underdogs in this situation. But of course, solo queue rank and competitive play, team play, two different things. And from what I understand, Matt, you are pretty heavy into the league scene at St. Clair as well, more for the club
hmm
side, though, correct? What do you do exactly there?
Yes. Yeah, I run the club LO team. We just finished our CSL season. Didn't go as planned, but happens. There's a lot of good teams out there, and I think a lot of them can transfer into these collegiate levels like cLoL and stuff, and they'll do really well.
Absolutely. Now, going into this match, of course, where I was mentioning that Saints are probably a little bit on the underdog side of things, what do they need to do to try and like give them the best shot at a bunch of these possible solo queue legends of sorts for this league team? Is there anything in the draft phase they can hang on to, or maybe a playstyle difference, or do you just go in guns blazing and hope for the best?
They came off two convincing wins, to be honest, in both cLoL last week and the minor that they're competing in now, and I think
Mhm.
those giving them that advanced could actually like help them in coming home with a 2-0 to even a 2-1 today.
Absolutely. Could even the last team that we did end up going down to another collegiate League of Legends action was York University, and it was a very
hmm
similar situation where the York squad, even though it kind of baited me at first, because similar to today, like it was a brand new season, so not everybody got their placement matches in. But that was another team full of masters and full of grandmasters, and it was a 2-1 game. So you're definitely onto something in regards to them being able to pull like something off, even if it's a
hmm
worst case scenario where Toronto is absolutely insane. But of course, you never know until you actually hit the field, which it looks like it's going to be a couple moments here. Apparently, Frez's power went out, so we have ourselves a quick little reboot in that situation. But it's been an exciting season already right now for
hmm
the League of Legends squad. I'm used to only maybe casting them maybe once a week, if that's maybe on and off throughout the season. We're blessed this this semester so far. Every week's had like 2 to 3 games, and definitely looking forward to more as it does come up. In fact, very quickly, while we do await for the power situation to get figured out here for Frez, I do want to quickly run over exactly what is coming up in the very near future, because the action here today, it is just the start of our action, as we do have later on tonight at 8 o'clock our 6th Collegiate Championship Rainbow Six Siege action. It's week 4 of action there. Our Saints doing solid job. Want to keep that going. Then tomorrow, of course, 5 p.m. Face It CS:GO returns, and then more League of Legends action. We see it twice up in the next couple days. Monday at 8 o'clock for the Upsurge Minor League. Then on Wednesday for additional Collegiate League of Legends action up against the University of Waterloo. But can't forget even more CSGO action as the NACE season gets started underway. And from what I understand here, Matt, you're not just strictly a fan of League of Legends. In fact, it sounds like you're going to be
hmm
joining me later on tonight for some action, eh?
Yeah, well, I'm excited for the R6 game. The squad we got, they're looking pretty good coming in. Um, I think their score is 2-1 right now,
I believe
if
you're
I'm not
correct, yes.
mistaken. So looking pretty good. Can't wait for it.
Definitely a good start, and they're going to be pushing forward, I'm sure. Looks like Active Force had his power blink as well, but he has returned. But real quick, I do have, of course, the rosters for both sides in this situation. Going over our opponents, the University of Toronto, Mississauga. Looks like up in the top lane, we do have Eclipse, who's currently being shown as a Masters player. Then Marcel lands? I'm gonna butcher that one a few times here, but we'll just say Marcel for now. In the jungle, another Masters player. We do also have Brian in the mid lane, currently being shown unranked, but I don't want to get baited by that again. I'm going to assume benefit of the doubt that they're up high. We have Forever in the AD carry position, and then Explosion Act in support, if this lineup that we do see here is completely correct. And looking forward to seeing how they compete. For the side of the Saints, though, of course, your hometown crowd, it is going to be Cooper 3 up in the top lane. Of course, the rookie who's been absolutely killing it up there, whether it be as supportive tank or a playmaker. Then we have Active Force in the jungle. Frez, as long as the power doesn't get him, will be here in the mid lane here for us. We do, of course, then have our bot lane, Lazi and Miensfo. Once again from last semester, looking to keep on rolling through. And I feel like a lot of eyes are going to be on that bot lane once again of Lazi and Miensfo. Because personally, like, normally when I think of League, you can tell me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like a lot of the eyes, a lot of the like stardom of sorts tends to go towards the AD carry. But with Lazi and Miensfo, I feel like they just do so good so often that we just assume that they do good constantly, that we're always looking towards other lanes. But from the AD carry point of view, has there been any champions of sorts that have been like showing up way more often than others that you can shed some insight on that might make that bot lane battle a little interesting?
Well, recently, since the I guess meta has been shifting, a lot has been going down to that bot lane. You have the Drake, which is one of the bigger objectives now that have been coming to circulation. More prominent ADCs like Kaisa and even Misfortune now is popping up as a counter for Kaisa. These are two like big ADCs who are you gotta keep your eyes on, either pick or bans. Jin, he's still pretty good, but he's slowly beginning to fall out against certain ADCs because he doesn't have that mobility that they do. But overall, I think bot lane is definitely that bigger area you gotta keep your eye on because it could go anywhere.
Definitely makes sense, and we'll have to see, because I know Jin has been a pick that Lassie has been liking in the past, but as you can probably hear in the background, we got everybody back. We're going to hop into the draft phase here for game number 1, so we do have Camille and Olaf being the first ones taken off the board. Kubra not looking to get feisty up there. In fact, the Aurelia going as well. Nunu, because apparently Nunu is busted in Active Force's hands, from what I understand. And we did see it once during, I believe it was Upsurge. He really tore through the field there. Thresh, just an overall solid playmaking and safe support. And we did see from the OPGGs that both of the support players, the Explosion Act and their sub, both played Thresh a ton. So I'm going to take a quick jab at Explosion. And final ban, we'll see in a moment. Is there any sort of patterns going on here? Or do you see anything interesting in regards to the bans themselves?
Camille and Olaf, honestly two of the most biggest picker bans right now. Olaf being such a bruiser and honestly a havoc in the jungle to deal with. You just have to get him out there, and Camille just battling through mostly every pickup top lane. So pretty big. I'd say Kubra and Active Force both know how to play those champions pretty well, so I would say they're pretty good bans. Coming in with the Kaisa first pick, which is not a big surprise for Lazi.
Yeah, pretty standard from him anyway.
And it's followed up by the Udyr from Toronto Mississauga, which is a pretty good pick. It's becoming more relevant now just because of how fast and tanky he can become in the early game and late.
It's definitely a meta that Trick2G would be approving of, getting the Godir back out here. Then Ezreal here for Forever, more than likely, unless Brian wants to pick that up in the mid lane. Not as common, I think, in the mid, but can definitely happen. And then one thing I want to note quickly over in the bans that Toronto Mississauga did, they took away the Leona, which is basically Mansfo's staple support in regards to roaming and playmaking. So he's going to be forced off of something different. An active force is going to be picking himself, the Sejuani, in this situation. We've seen him played a few times in past leagues. Big success. I think it's 1-1 across 2 different leagues. And then we got the Gator. We have Kubra going to be picking up the Renekton.
Yeah, one of his signature picks comes actually all the way back to his club level. Back a few months ago, it was one of his staple picks that he would carry games on, and followed that by the Gragas, which is becoming one of actually Renekton's bigger counters.
It just feels like anytime I pay a ton of attention to League of Legends, Gragas is always there, and it always frustrates me because I see him absolutely everywhere, but just makes so much sense. He's got so much damage, he's got utility, he's got even a little bit of mobility, a little bit of escaping, considering how big the fella is. But nonetheless, that could go support, that can go top, that can go mid. I've seen it jungle. Like, this Gragas doesn't really reveal a whole heck of a lot in terms of positioning, I feel like, for the Saints.
Yeah, it's definitely a bigger flex pick because you don't know really where it's going. Even with the Udyr pick, it could go either top or jungle, so
Right.
you're not giving that much away. And especially with the Alistar ban being given away by Toronto Mississauga, it's one of those counters to Gragas support, so they may be hovering it towards that support role.
Definitely be interesting. We still do have the support and the mid lane pick here for Saints to take care of. And then I'd, of course, try to analyze the side of Mississauga, but there is, just like we were saying, too much flex picking available here to really know until the actual champions are locked in. They pretty much, or Saints pretty much will, 9 times out of 10, I feel like, let Frez try to get the counter pick, with being the final pick of the entire pick and ban phase. And then I'm also curious to see what Mansfo ends up going with here. Pantheon, something we've seen in the past from him, could be a possibility, but I've seen less and less of it as of late. And I don't know if there was a buff or nerf that may have pushed him one way or the other, but we'll have to see, as it's going to be the next pick coming up here for Toronto.
And it's going to be a set, which is another flex pick, but that one is definitely looking pretty tanky on the side of Toronto Mississauga for that Ezreal.
Gosh, so we just don't really know where any of this is going, and I can't complain, to say the least. Here we do see it's going to be Mansfo now onto the Braum. Just going to be playing more of the bodyguard role this time by.
Yeah, the Braum Kaisa was a pretty strong lane with the Braum's passive. I would say, and it's a pretty safe pick into this comp with the amount of poke that they're going to throw out with Ezreal, followed up by Anivia, which is a very, very strong mid laner currently, and especially in the hands of Frez. It's going to be a very targeted lane.
So with the bird in play, what is the final pick going to be? The Yone is likely going to go battle Frez in the mid lane. So as much as Frez tried to get the counter pick, he may very well be the one getting countered in this situation. Of course, Anivia does have some decent burst damage, but it does kind of require a little bit of setup.
Yeah, with the Yone pick, you're picking a very more mobile champion into a very immobile champion like Anivia, so definitely going to be a lot of focus around that mid lane to try and get Frez ahead and keep him relevant in this game.
And from what I understand here, it looks like we did have already a little bit of technical difficulties again, this time over on Lazi's side of things. So as we hop into the game, it might be just the briefest of moments before we actually get underway. But I gotta say, this draft here for University of Toronto Mississauga, like, it was crafty, to be honest. It kept you guessing the entire way. We throw it back to us here for just a little bit. But the fact that you can never truly get a proper counter pick because you just never knew where anything was actually going was extremely brutal. Like even when like they had the Udyr, they had the Gragas, the Ezreal. Okay, you know where Ezreal's probably going, and they picked Set. That was still absolutely no answer because of course he goes everywhere too. And then it just set up Brian here, and I'm gonna be paying attention to that mid lane probably pretty frequently here as this matchup happens because. Like Frez obviously does his best once he's in a position to like farm up, get to the late game, and not have to worry about really having a bad matchup in the early game. But I'm not sure necessarily specifically how Yone and Anivia goes, but I can imagine it still being rather irritating for the Anivia. Am I
Mm.
wrong in that situation, or
Yeah, I'd say the Nivea most likely is going to have a hard time in this lane getting excessive amount of poke in. At least pre six, the Nivea is going to probably have a rougher time, especially with an Udyr around just about to run you down if you go anywhere past that mid lane portion. But I definitely would say this Ione pick is definitely one they could save for last, and it's definitely going to impact the game either way.
sure? Now I'm curious to see what. And I'm always going to butcher this name, Marcelasny. Marcelasny, we'll go with that. Marcelasny with that Udyr. Ghost or Flash or both? Or no, you're a jungler. You're not taking both. So which one are you taking, Ghost or Flash?
Mm, I would say, it's a 50-50. Could go Ghost or Flash. I'd say he's probably gonna take that Flash with a phase rush so he can just hit the bear slap and then instant death for whoever he hits. And he
Yeah,
just speeds out of there.
yeah, because of course Udyr has a ton. Like he gets a decent movement speed buff, but he's not necessarily the greatest still at gap closing. So
Hmm.
like I've been seeing a little bit of a mix where some people go for like a really beefy tanky Udyr, just hit Ghost, run through the entire team, and just try to slap the AD carry on the head, give him a little boop. But then of course the pick option, the super aggressive option, I feel like is that Flash, and we'll have to see how
Hmm.
that one ends up going. Meanwhile, I want to
Yeah.
also do a quick look at the rest of our lane matchups here. So we do have, we'll take a look at the bot lane first, actually. So Lazzie's Kaisa and Miensfo's Braum up against Forever's Ezreal and Explosion Axe Set. So are we just farming this one out, or are we going to see some aggression coming out of what I would think would be University of Toronto Mississauga?
I'd say it's a pretty even lane, to be honest. You have aggression on both sides. I would say in the long run, it would most likely go to Ezreal Set just from the durability they have in lane. Ezreal being able to poke so far back and Set just tanking everything. I mean, Braum can do the same thing with his shield, but it's just once you have that Kaisa pinned down, you really can't do much with it.
It definitely makes sense. I would expect to see then Lassie looking to make this a little bit of a slower game, try to scale up and then blow somebody out of the water after the fact. But can you make it there in time? I feel like that's across multiple of the Saints Varsity titles. It feels like they play these long games or like look for the late game and they just kind of get stuffed out just beforehand. So we'll have to see
Hmm.
if the league squad can play it safe enough or if U Toronto will make that early game work for them. Now, up in the top lane, of course, it's going to be Cooper 3's Renekton versus. Why did I butcher the name? Where did he go? It's the Gragas from Red Eclipse. So, Renekton versus Gragas. What happens here? Considering they're both melee, but Gragas can kind of whip barrels out.
Yeah, I would say in the early games, it would most likely go to the Renekton. And it's looking with the grass take from Red Eclipse. It's looking like he's going for that tank Udyr or Gragas. So he's definitely going for more of a team fight build with that grass. So he's not going to be exploding the Renekton level 3 and stuff, but he's definitely going to be able to sustain in that lane and survive the Renekton onslaught that he's going to throw out.
Now, with the help of the Udyr, though, if he is able to, if Arcelesny there is able to stun him up with his own damage, of course, because Udyr can pack a decent punch too. You think that Gator just blows up, or is it a lane he might
Yeah,
want to avoid?
I would say Renekton early game is very, very squishy. If when he doesn't have his Fury stacked up, he's definitely going to have a pretty hard time. I'd say Udyr most likely gank is going to be that top focus. To be honest,
Okay.
it's if Renekton likes to push up and get leads so he can go around the map and secure things with his jungler. But if the Udyr is pressuring him off of that roam and keeping him under tower, the Renekton almost becomes useless.
Of course, Renekton, not exactly the champion that you want to be behind on, because, yeah, like, you're either going even or, like, you're relatively strong and you're just an absolutely fearsome gator. Otherwise, it just feels like you are on the seafood menu for that day. But we're in the game, but of course, Lassie did have himself a bit of a computer issue, so we're already under pause in this situation. A couple more moments, it sounds like, before we finally get underway. Apparently, shout out to Essex Power today, because it's just been power outages from multiple players right now on the same squad. Hopefully, that stables up a little bit moving forward here. But before we do actually hop into the game, I do want to give, of course, a quick shout out to the sponsors that do make the St. Clair Saints esports team possible, without, of course, being St. Clair College, Tim Hortons, the St. Clair SRC, and St. Clair College Alumni Association, Zeckelman School of Business and Information Technology, and PC Outlet. Of course, would not be able to do it without all of you guys and all your support. And speaking of support, thank you to everybody who's also here in the chat, already tuning into the matchup. I know you're just as eager as I to finally get into the game, but if you're here for your classmates, whether it's your school's team or family member or some other person you know, thank you for supporting their esports endeavors here and tuning in to their match. Absolutely love to see it.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a thrill of a match. And it's looking like in chat there, they're about to get ready up for game one.
Game one right around the corner. Let's double check here. Yeah, they're going back and forth. A couple of them still figuring things out, but not too much longer here. One thing that we noticed in past cLoL matches, especially week one, it was either week one or is in a different collegiate leagues match, Wood versus York, but we did see it get really, really brutal. Level 1. What do you think is going to happen? Does any team want to make the invade in this situation? Or are we going to hop into the game and see ourselves a line of scrimmage?
You know, I think, if anything, the side of Toronto Mississauga has the best chance of invading here with the Gragas body slam and the set pull. And even Udyr is stunned, you get hit by any of those, you're most likely just going to die, even if you burn a flash or anything. But it looks like everyone's just throwing a 5-point up, so looking like a boring little start for both sides, but it's going to be definitely going to get a little action-packed later on.
Yeah, boring is safe, safe is good for the most part, especially when your squad may not necessarily be that strong in this early game. Let's see, trying to take a look. We have Udyr over on the blue side of things. Activeforce still looking to make his choice, possibly going towards the blue as well. But you're saying before that a right Eclipse is probably going to get some help nice and quick here from Arcelesny up with that Udyr, right? Trying to give Kubra a hard time.
Yeah, and this is actually really good. I'm scouting out that ward on the Pixel Brush and River there. That's actually going to give Renekton that quick level actually off of that first wave. So he's going to have a XP lead. And Activeforce actually going straight down to his red. So it's looking like a both bot side start, and they're going to rotate top to meet for that Scuttle at 315.
Fair enough. And then I'm sure if top lane is going to be what we're looking at, well, be on a bit of a help there from Activeforce to make sure things don't get too crazy. We've seen in past matches, Activeforce, he may not necessarily be the ones getting the kills, but to be honest, as the jungler, that's not always a bad thing. Setting up all of his lanes, multiple double-digit assist matches, and even a couple of them getting close to double-digit kills in the past matches, but we'll have to see as the beefy Sejuani, where does he want to go? As you were saying there, the quick level 2 to Kubra, but at the same time, Red Eclipse pretty much gets it right back, so they're able to tit for tat up on the top lane.
Yeah, it's the CS lead's going to Kubra up there, but he's losing the trades and damage at least with the Gragas passive healing him back up over time, and just pure damage from the E into auto attack.
Now, this is where things are about to get interesting, I do believe. We do see marcellesne there on the Udyr already up by, I think that's the Krugs all the way up top. And meanwhile, Actiforce still so far away, just kind of making it to his blue buff right here, right now. Just this clear speed from Udyr is just absolutely insane. So we actually do see Cooper taking a trip to the river, maybe expecting something aggressive to go down that way, or just going for that crab.
Yeah, it looks like he shoved in his wave early, which is looking like Grog is trying to set up a freeze up there, but they're going to get the top crab here, but Udyr's looking mid lane here with that go. Prez with a good Q here, but he's looking like he has to burn his flash like he just did. And it's going to be the egg popped here for Prez. Pretty good gank from the Udyr here, catching him out, pushed up.
Yeah, small victories for the fact that you... Oh, hang on, we could have a party.
Udyr here from bot lane roam. That's going to be first blood going to Lazi.
Okay, that's quite the twist. We did not expect to see so many players all the way up in this midsection. I don't think marcellesne had any clue, and we're going to try and get both of these crabs here for St. Clair. Try to give Actiforce the quick little boost in this matchup, as the first dragon is just going to be right around the corner. Probably a little bit too early to try and focus that down, but we'll be there soon. But nice little start. Of course, first blood going to the player you probably wanted to go to. Lazi, of course, boost that 80 carry, get their game underway, give him the items as quick as possible. So as long as you can keep him safe, all will be well. Now Brian is going to get flashed on. Nice shot there from Actiforce. One more shot. Can they tank it? They're not going to quite do it. Miansvo being the best bodyguard NA, just making sure that Actiforce can walk in, walk out just fine. But Brian barely going to get out with his life in this situation. And then nice little trade here again.
Yeah, it's looking, that's the Gragas power right there, just taking out. Oh, it looks like they're continuing the dive on mid lane here against Brian, but Miansvo may have bit off more than he can chew with this. Ooh. That's going to be a that's going to be a 3 for, in the top lane 1v1 as well.
They might not be done here. They're chasing them down.
Doesn't look like the Udyr can catch up, but that's going to be really bad for St. Clair here with the Renekton dying 1v1 up top lane and them biting more than they can chew in the mid lane and that dive.
Yeah, the fact that Marcel was already right back in that section, able to assist Brian, really made it so that when Miansvo dove in, it was just a one-way street. You're not returning from that one. You're toast. And then you were also mentioning up in the top lane, Kubra seems like he was losing those trades, and finally he lost one for good, as it's going to be Red Eclipse getting the solo kill onto him up there. And then you just traded 2 kills over to Brian after an over-aggressive dive. This might be a turning point here already here early in this game, as we do see marcellesne up here again with Red Eclipse. Kubra does not have a flash. Could be absolutely toast here. Bear slap, take him down. Phoenix stands, give him the burn, but Kubra might be able to slice and dice his way out of there, but he's not getting out scot-free. Half of his health already gone.
Yeah, that's going to be Kubra 3 not respecting the Udyr and River there. He may have not known what he was coming, but with the positioning from Gragas, it looked like he was getting ready for it. But yeah, it's going to be half his health bar gone. Most prio lost in lane now. To just going to have a rough lane overall.
And this is brutal here in the mid lane too. Now that Brian has both of those kills, he's going to be an absolute fiend in terms of damage output. Actiforce trying to make his way down bot and make a play, however. Explosion Act and Forever not going to take really any damage from that situation and just keep things safe. So now majority of the lanes, maybe exception of the bot lane, feeling the hurt right now for St. Clair.
Yeah, it's going to be Brian going in 1v1 on Prez, and it's going to be actually a pretty even trade. Prez is going to have to back and lose almost a wave of CS now.
That one definitely hurts. Probably either doesn't have passive or doesn't want to pop it just yet. Actiforce returning here. Teleport coming in. There's going to be a 4-on-3 battle here. Marcel's going to try and run away with a nice ulti coming over here from Actiforce. Big damage onto the Set and the Udyr. Can they actually finish it off, though? Somehow, they just wanted to pass that over to Lazi, and by doing so, they didn't get anything. And with the teleports being burned, it just gave Red Eclipse the go-ahead to get as aggressive as he wanted onto Kubra. And it's going to put our poor Gator down 0-2 in this situation. He's not going to be very tanky. He's losing in CS now. This one's looking rough for Kubra.
Yeah, and Kubra actually sacrificing his life there to stop that TP from bot lane. The Gragas was looking for a TP and push there. But
that makes sense then.
Yeah, he sacrificed his life to stop the TP. But what an unfortunate fight down bot lane. 3 people getting away almost 1 HP. That heal from Forever actually doing Toronto Mississauga some good work.
Yeah, that was so
with
close.
them being 1 HP, it got St. Clair the first strike of the game being an Ocean.
Like, I understand trying to pass over the kills to the AD carry, but sometimes when it's just too close, you just have to take it. And unfortunately there, instead of having gold onto maybe your support or something, now nobody gets gold, and it's just going to be the bot lane basically going neutral, and then top lane having more and more of a hard time, as we see Shelly on the menu here for Brian and Marcel.
And the Rift Herald just ceding to University of Toronto Mississauga. Doesn't seem like St. Clair wanted to contest it at all. With Frez coming back from base and Active Force just clearing his jungle. So it's going to be an uncontested 8-minute Rift Herald.
Yeah, it didn't look like there's any vision or anything on that either, so like Saints wouldn't have been able to quite respond as they may have wanted to. But where does Shelly go play? Do you just force the issue here with Frez in the mid lane? Just try to burst down that tower, so maybe the Yone or Brian in this situation could just go roaming everywhere? Or do you just hang on to that for a little while?
You know, I think with Frez keeping bot lane action, giving Yone some time mid lane, I think those 2 tower plates that he lost there may actually be really bad for him, because he's about 2 autos away from just losing the tower to Rift Herald. So Udyr looking actually come from behind the tower and not possibly drop it. So I think he's just scouting for wolves.
Yeah, he's probably going to make another trip up here with Red Eclipse. Probably going to try and dive onto Kubra. Going to be in for a world of hurt. Brian looks like he's making his way up too, so they might not just try to 1 or 2v1 this. But that being said, enough damage. You're even going to be able to move Kubra away. The nice last second heal actually from his abilities, keeping him in this game. But Brian is going to then come up a little bit delayed, but he's going to find the kill and get out with just a smidgen of health.
Yeah, it's a scuffed dive up from University of Toronto Mississauga. Them knocking Kubra was pretty good, but he had almost full stacks on his rage, so he just healed back everything with 1 Q. I mean, it's gonna look like top tower is going down here to the Herald.
I mean, it did kind of look a little scuffed, but at the same time, you just pass over the 3rd kill over to Brian's Yone. So would I call that calculated? Pass it over to the carry?
Yeah, definitely scuffed, but in the end it worked out. And it's looking like Active Force is going hard down bot lane, but pushing them off the tier 1 tower and gonna get some extra plates for Lazi.
Yeah, the saving grace here in this matchup so far is the St. Clair bot lane, and while they only have the 1 kill onto Lazi from that mid engage earlier, as you do see another one actually where Frez is possibly going to be in for a little bit of a world of hurt. And Brian actually basically trading this even after staying in that blizzard way too long. Frez is going to get aggressive. He very well might. Oh, geez, that's going to just go wide. No. And hello, here comes the bear. Boop on the head. But actually, Active Force going to catch Brian, maybe getting a little bit overzealous. And now we do see, can they DPS the egg down? I don't think they're going to be able to. Frez now actually has a bit of mana in this situation. But now Active Force could be in for a world of hurt. Red Eclipse and Explosion Act, both here ready to play. But after the flash, Active Force able to get away.
Yeah, it's a really good play by St. Clair here to catch Brian out of position and finish him off and almost turn it on to Marcel, but him having his Explosion Act and Red Eclipse nearby wasn't able to happen. In the end, burning Active Force's flash and getting away with a 1-for-0.
Yeah, so definitely take that there, a little extra gold into the pocket of Active Force as well. The fact that Brian was maybe just a little too kill hungry. Going to at least get the Saints a little bit back into this game. Just under 2K gold lead right now for the side of University of Toronto Mississauga, but we've definitely seen crazier comebacks. This is absolutely like nothing in the long scheme of things, but still enough to kind of worry about as we do see Brian making an appearance alongside Red Eclipse. Unfortunately, there is no ability to fly on that birdie to get out of dodge, and now Frez is going to go down for free right as Dragon's about to show up.
Yeah, that's just University of Toronto Mississauga punishing that Anivia for being a bit too far up, I guess. They're pushing down towards their top side to get pressure, and they just kind of lost it, but
This could
he
get
does have
messy.
TP. It looks like they're trying to solve for the Anivia spawn, but I think they're just going to actually kill Explosion Act.
If they can keep
Take it away
Lassie,
like-
it could be close. AD carry battle in the side there, and actually that went over to Active Force. He did manage to steal the dragon. Saints got themselves a double kill. Granted, at the same time, we did also lose Mian's foe, but at the same time, Lassie's still in this. Frez has returned. Stun right and target onto Brian. Lassie might be able to even assist here on one of the kills. If he doesn't get himself caught, he's going to be getting taken down, though. Nice little flash there from Red Eclipse to at least get the one kill. This is awkward, however, though. Frez wants to hit Forever, but Forever just has so much mobility. It's going to be a little bit difficult. And where does Frez use his cooldowns in this situation? Very awkward. And Forever going to turn this around. What looked like was going to be a fantastic battle for Saints after it got stalled out a little bit. Unfortunately, the only real positive is the fact that Dragons went over to St. Clair, but everything else went pretty much neutral.
Yeah, it was looking pretty rough for St. Clair at the start, but it turned into their favor, and especially with Active Force hitting that smite against Studier was pretty big, because that actually turned them into a 2-0 over University of Toronto Mississauga.
And I wonder if that's been something he's been working about. It's one of the things that I kind of did cuss out Active Force a little bit. Like, not completely cuss out, but it's one of the things that I've noticed that did need some practice is the fact that time and time again he was losing smite fights even when he had the level advantage. But this time, it was an extremely tense situation, but yet he was still able to outsmite Marcel Lesney and was able to take care of it and get Saints their second dragon of the game. But now Frez is in trouble once again. How many times am I going to see him walk through that corridor and get himself killed for free? Death number 3, and watch out. That Yone is going to be packing a hell of a punch this game.
Man, that's just a free buff transfer for Yone there. Frez went over against blue, got caught on the deep ward they placed earlier, and just dies for it. I mean, there's not much you can do there. They're just littering this blue jungle up with wards. And with that control, they're just getting another Rift Herald.
Yeah, Rift Herald going to go in their favor. Kubra is just trying his best to get himself farmed back up into this game, but you can really tell the fact that Red Eclipse right now, 4 kills, no deaths, 5 assists. He's got so much in the bank that wherever he goes, he's tanky, but also packs a gigantic punch. Can Brian line it up for him as we do see him charging into the mid lane? Frez actually using the Blizzard to at least get Red Eclipse away from the fight, forcing them to retreat in this situation. So what could have been deadly is going to be at least negated for the time being.
Yeah, and that Blizzard Storm there actually saved St. Clair from getting caught out in that mid lane with the Gragas flank. So good timing for Frez to show up there, or it would have turned into a bloodbath possibly.
Absolutely. Oh, nice little wall there from Frez as well. Again, someone on the side of Toronto wanted to dive in, but it gets completely shut down. Frez doing his best to at least keep the area controlled as best as possible. Pick the fights that his team wants, as long as he's not getting himself jumped on by himself. But when he's with the group, all looks pretty good.
Yeah, maybe he may be 0-3 with some levels down. Make that... Oh, he has the egg. Almost 0-4, but...
Hello, Shelly.
That's going to be...
Bye-bye, Frez.
Yeah, that's going to be Frez falling down for the 4th time. Possibly Active Force getting caught out here.
And this is rough. Okay, that barrel is not going to find its mark in the slightest. This is actually could be a feeding frenzy here for Lassie if he can get himself lined up. Shutdown gold, unfortunately. I think that was the ignite from Yansfo going to take it away from Lassie. So that support is going to be hella tanky, but that's basically it. Can they get the stun on the Forever? He does have one more blink available if necessary, I think, unless he just used it. But get under tower just in time. And one of the things from the past couple fights, I never really did mention, the big winner in that dragon fight that happened a little while ago was Forever. Because he went from being, I think, basically zeros across the board, maybe 1 kill. But that dragon fight had him living long enough to get 4-0. He was basically getting shut down in lane by Lassie and Miansfo. But now, 4 kills, back in the game, can pack so much of a punch. And then this is always the scary part when I see multiple threats who can deal a ton of damage it gets a little bit difficult, to say the least. And I'm a little bit worried here for St. Clair, as it feels like all of the eggs are in the basket of Lazi.
Yeah, this Ezreal's actually just been silently gaining these leads. He may be down CS, but those 4 kills is definitely keeping him, if not above, and even with Lazi. But this is looking like St. Clair is wanting to contest this 3rd drag to get that soul point, trying to keep up. That's going to be Frez getting hit. But they're going to catch the Gragas out of position here, catching him. The barrel cast going down. Gragas is just losing his HP, but he E-slams out. That's going to be a scrappy fight between the two, but University of Mississauga is wanting to go back in now. Just stalling out the abilities. That's going to be the Udyr catching more than he can prove. This is just a bloodbath going between the two teams, trading even. That's going to be Lazi fending off Brian. And in the end, it's going to be a 3-for-1 in the favor of University of maybe Lazi finds a second one here. He's going to get the shutdown. It's going to be a trade between the two.
We take those, I guess.
Yeah,
bounty.
Yeah, we do take those. In the end, they lose the drag, but they come out with in the end, a 4-for-2.
Yeah, small victories, definitely take those. Lazi getting the shutdown gold will boost him a little bit further. And then Frez is going for the Hail Mary to absolutely nothing. Actually, no, Cooper is actually there as well. And
it's just going to be a Gator. Dead Gator.
I feel like that's the kind of play I see my top laners do in my promos, but it's definitely a feel bad moment. They went for it. They wanted to get that 3rd dragon, which, to be honest, if that worked, you're in such a solid position in regards to dragons being able to go to the soul point next time by. But it was definitely a like 1 out of 10 tries that works kind of play, and I appreciate the risk, but that was rough.
I think, it definitely was. It was a valiant effort, but I think they may have just been a bit more greedy than they intended to be with that. Not wanting to give over that 3rd drag of the game, and especially with it being a Mountain Soul against a already tanky Gragas, who's dealing massive amounts of damage. So.
And then Red Eclipse was such a critical player in that last fight that we saw in mid. He went for the flash body slam, and I believe he knocked up 4 members of St. Clair, including Lazi, to the point where multiple members went down. Lazi wasn't able to shoot. He got low, but he didn't go down until that battle with Forever after the fact. But that single body slam turned that fight so bad.
Yeah, it was definitely a very drawn-out and bloody fight in that mid lane there with the 4-man Gragasy into, I believe it was a Yone ulti and a Braum ulti, and it just, nobody could really get on each other, and it just ended up going in favor of University of Mississauga. And they now hold a almost 6k lead over St. Clair. And they actually may be positioning for this Baron. St. Clair have no idea this Baron's actually going down. They have no idea. It's just complete darkness for... Oh, Active Force is going to scout it out by walking in, but I think he may just die for it.
Yeah, Frez is backed in this situation, so no matter what, even if they had everybody, this is going to be an underhanded fight. Brian going to get out of dodge. Lazi actually, can they get the stun? Gets the shutdown. That's a huge shutdown to go over to Lazi, and in fact, the Baron has to be taken off the plate somehow, even though that was like a 3v5. They stopped this. Saints might be thinking about turning this. Say it again?
Yeah, they killed the mid laner. They just can turn onto this really easily. And they burned most of their ultis off of that onto Mianspo there, and didn't really do that much damage. He only down to half HP. And they're just shredding this. St. Clair's looking to turn back onto this. The Gragas is the target here. Gragas goes down, sets in the back line, causing havoc, but he just goes down too. It's a 2-for-0. St. Clair just goes right back onto the Baron.
Okay, one thing to keep track of though, Marcelesny is still there. The Udyr ready to go, smite in hand. Gotta see if he does go for the challenge. Can Active Force get this?
They do have full vision of it.
Kubra
go in on it.
Oh,
it's going down. He goes in on it.
Oh my goodness! What a steal!
On him, Saga.
What
a steal!
Oh, man! I was just giving props to Active Force for earlier in the They getting that dragon steal, but a huge, huge steal there from Arcelesny. And they're going to be able to keep this going. Why are you checking the bush again? Chasing it down forever. Keep on going. You could hit his shield and still take him down. Actiforce forced to use his ultimates to try and get out a dodge, but he's going up against what would be 3 if they keep on pushing on here. Actiforce, this boar is not long for this world. Chop, chop, see you later. Give it over to the big man. And it's going to be Red Eclipse getting another one. It was such a good fight, but Saints overstayed their welcome.
Yeah, it was such a good play by St. Clair to take 2 out on an overextension from Toronto Mississauga, but the Udyr just coming in and smiting it away at 200 HP, just causing a problem. And that Ezreal actually almost takes down Frez, but in the process doesn't get the auto attack off.
There is so much damage on this Toronto squad. If you don't get a pick on somebody as St. Clair, I think you just straight up lose in this situation. I don't think you can actually 5v5 this anymore unless you can somehow like find the absolute like Hail Mary Sejuani ult to freeze everybody into position, or you get Frez to wall somebody off and stun them. Otherwise, if you're fighting like heads up, it's going over, I think, to Toronto Mississauga every time.
Yeah, it's definitely not a game St. Clair cannot win. They can definitely come back from this. They're trading pretty evenly in these fights, but just these objectives and fights just end up going in favor of University of Toronto Mississauga just from these overextensions that they have. And they look to be actually not going to concede this drag. They're going to get control in the river. Brian may get caught out here, but the Q from Miansvo going wide.
They needed that to get this started, because now we're going to have ourselves a straight-on 5v5. This is going to be rough. You let Brian go in alone. This is going to be scary. Red Eclipse, of course, tanky. He could dive in and be A-okay in this situation. Lazy on side of St. Clair, not getting baited at this moment, waiting for his spot. The True Shot Barrage tears through majority of the St. Clair squad, and we have ourselves a battle. Lazy staying back in the background, but Explosion Act dives on in, and it's going to get messy right now. The Gator goes down, Cooper's taken off the board, but it's going to be at least traded 1-for-1. Frez hanging on for dear life. Brian, switch of target, takes down Lazy with the blink of an eye, a slice of a blade. We're going to have ourselves probably a prolonged A-stack. Dragon going to go over to the side of Toronto Mississauga as well. There goes the birdie, but actually Octaforce barely going to hang on for dear life. But yeah, another solid team fight. Again, just Brian has so much damage. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and it looked like it was going to go in the favor of St. Clair there, but it ended up being too much for St. Clair to handle. Brian coming in afterwards with that ulti on the Lazy and Frez, catching them out. It's going to be Actiforce, maybe actually catching 2 here. 1v2, the healing from Gragas passive catching him. But actually, it's going to be a takedown and make that 2.
Okay.
Actiforce getting a double kill.
Okay, sometimes you do that, and sometimes it works. I don't usually think of Sejuani in regards to damage, but slow and steady, shot after shot, able to take the 2 of them down, including a shutdown. So at least in this situation for St. Clair, Actiforce should be a very strong like frontliner in regards to like diving in and maybe trying to make Forever's life a little bit of a living hell, but you still have to deal with Brian and his ability to just blink around all over the place, it feels like. So can Actiforce find the spot to get that ulti that we need to turn a fight?
Yeah, the fight going in his favor with that Sunfire Cape and Thornmail just not being able to do much damage to him. Definitely tank Gragas isn't that person who's gonna burst down a Sejuani. Well, you do look in the mid lane, there is a pretty big gap now with Brian almost having over 100 CS on Frez, just not being able to complete. I think he just completed his first item with boots, so definitely a rough game for Frez, but he's dealing a lot of damage each team fight still, being so far behind.
Yeah, he may not necessarily have the kills. Sure, he has a couple assists under his belt, but also being able to just control the battlefield, have that wall, have that blizzard, and then in theory, if this game goes on long enough, and they just keep letting Frez just keep clearing these waves, he will naturally start farming up, because trying to push into an Anivia is actually like rather difficult at times. But I'll have to see Red Eclipse. Oh, he was thinking about getting aggressive. But no, as time goes on, as long as Frizz doesn't get caught out, which it looks like that very well might be the case, Active Force might be forced to use an ult to keep him alive. Not going to be the case, going to try and hang on to it. But now, in a really rough position, slam down, taking him in the middle of his team. It's going to take so many members to kill off Active Force, but he's going to go down for free. And Baron is right around the corner. Solid plays here once again from Toronto Mississauga. And possibly, if they can find these 2 kills here onto Miensfo and Lazi, as we do see Miensfo get sent right into the middle of the team. Lazi having a hard time even getting through Red Eclipse in this situation. Miensfo forced to burn the Glacial Fissure to try and keep himself alive. Lazi gets the 1, but still. Okay, you get the support. Lazi's still alive.
Actually, may catch the Ezreal here if he can goes on it, but looks like they're just going to take the 1-for-1 there.
Lazi can't defend this himself. Kubra is here. He's looking to try and go in. If he can keep Lazi safe, that's okay, but you can see Forever, he's not worried about Kubra right now. He's looking to take the shots onto Lazi. Brian is now here. He's going to take a bunch of burst damage and get out of dodge. Solid job there from Lazi to use whatever he had onto him to maybe make him think twice about trying to dive him.
Yeah, definitely this game is very, very scrappy between the two, but for having such a gold lead and having a 10-3 Yone and a 10-1 Ezreal, it's going pretty evenly between the two if they don't get caught out. Oh. The Sejuani ulti going off wide. Maybe you're taunting.
Oh, don't do that to him.
Oh, not going to be good on that mental there. Yeah, University of Toronto Mississauga just having complete vision. It's looking like they're going to start the Baron now.
Yeah, they're going pretty
Clair
quick.
They just blue warded it.
And this is actually rather rough. Active Force uses his ult already, so no AoE stuns in this situation, but we're going to be going in. Lazi all the way up top. He's got to try and run away from 3 members. This isn't going to go over well. Forever going to take care of him instantly. As soon as Kubra tries to jump onto Forever, he's instantly picked up by Explosion Axe, put into the bush, and left to die. And now the rest of St. Clair forced to try and run away. Walls trying to keep his team alive, but Active Force is going to be the 3rd casualty here in this fight. Baron will be probably short to follow, and I would imagine we'll see an inhibitor go down very shortly too.
Yeah, and that's just a really bad fight and a really good... Oh, it looks like the Gragas isn't done yet. Trying to keep them as long as he can, but the wall just stopping him. Yeah, I think I'm not going to get much here.
Bryce has no mana though, so he can actually just keep playing around. Braum isn't going to burst you, so just keep them at bay, take this Baron like it's nobody's business. And I mean, Brian's already here on the inhibitor. He's just going to take this himself.
You called it. Free inhib for the squad wearing purple now.
Yeah, this will be tough to blast through here. We see that gold lead getting bigger and bigger. We see some massive scores here on the side of Toronto Mississauga as well. Of course, the 11 kills, 7 assists on Forever. And then Brian's right there as well with 10 kills, 3 deaths, and 13 assists. There's just so many assists across this entire board. The fact that this University of Toronto Mississauga squad are all getting involved in each other's kills, it feels like they're all getting a piece of it. And by that, they're getting further and further ahead here in the situation. Like Lazi, a lot of the damage is in his hands in this situation, but he's still so frail. He has to play it absolutely perfectly, and we saw in that last fight, Red Eclipse, Marcelesny, Brian, Forever, everybody dove him. Like, there's only so much kiting you can do before you get booped by the Udyr or knocked away by the barrels of Red Eclipse. I don't care how good you are. You either need some god-level peeling or you're toast.
Yeah, and that was really good positioning by University of Toronto Mississauga, catching out Lazi with the Gragas barrel there, I believe, into the set combos. He just, no matter what he did, the heal ulti, he just could not get out of it. It looks like they may have actually caught out Brian here. Lazi going in with the Kai'Sa ulti. Brian's guaranteed to go back to where he began. That's going to be a... Oh, maybe not. The Gragas TP coming in, catching it. It may actually just be Lazi getting caught out here. Unless Gragas gets kite out, it's going to be Gragas trading the life for Yone, while the base of St. Clair is actually just being trampled as the Gragas just tanks up all their time.
Gosh, look how long that took.
tier 2 tower going down. And that's just a dead gator again. Not a fun game. That's going to be game 1, potentially going over to the side of University.
It'd have to be a miracle. One more time. Forever's actually down. That's a huge kill.
Lassie, it's going to be actually holding on.
Can they somehow plow through everything right here, right now? I feel like this is their only opportunity.
That is huge for Lassie, getting a triple kill onto them. A 700 gold bounty on the Ezreal. This is huge. This Kaisa is beginning to actually become a problem for them. I don't know if the University of Toronto Mississauga can hang on.
Kind of sad that I'm sure one person was supposed to probably stay back, but it's kind of sad to see that all of St. Clair just completely retreated in this situation. Like, there's still targets that they can go for here to try and get back in this game. I'm looking up at the tower kill count. I didn't even recognize this until just now. The 10 towers down compared to the 1 from St. Clair. Like, they could have easily knocked down some of these tier 1s or something, at least get themselves back in the game. But just opted to go back and farm their own camps, I guess. Now everybody else is back up here on the side of University of Toronto Mississauga, and you could basically just teleport into the Saints base and kill it off at this point. There is a ward there too, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a backdoor play.
Yeah, and I think the only person who can really pull it off is that Udyr or Ezreal, but with the Gragas using that TP to save Brian's life top lane and almost giving over that 400 gold or a 700 gold minor stake to Lassie, which would have put him ahead so much. And he's already a full item Kaisa now with those kills. I mean, he's 2 items above this Ezreal, and he's just destroying health bars.
Yeah, that was one combo, half health on the Brian.
Yeah, just being 10,000 gold down, this game is almost dead even still. But Baron probably spawning within the next 2 minutes. Drake spawning as well. This is definitely going to be a deciding moment. That 4th Drake for side of University of Toronto Mississauga.
There is going to have to be some incredible decision making here on the side of St. Clair, because there is going to be way too much to have to deal with, and it's going to split themselves so thin that it's going to be almost unbearable, I feel like. With the Nexus as open as it is, you can't leave it blank. You can't leave just a tank, or you can't even just leave Frez back there to wave clear, because then all of a sudden Brian just runs in, takes him out, and then takes out the Nexus. Like, Baron's going to be up sometime soon. Dragon, Soul Point right around the corner. There's way too much they have to deal with and not enough people to deal with it. And they're going to try and make it so it's just going to be Frez back here. And I don't think this is going to go in his favor at all. This is exactly what I was worried about. Brian just making that look easy.
Caught out here, but Brian gets away.
So
yeah, that's going to be actually a huge thing for Frez to lose. His flash and Zanya's. It's going to be down for the next minute and a half, probably. And with Drag coming up, they actually may catch Red Eclipse out here. And Lassie's just shredding through them, but the barrel catching Lassie. Lassie may just be cut out of position here. And that's going to be Lassie going down.
That's got to be it right there, but still going to keep on fighting forward.
He's in the middle. He's doing some damage. He actually may be able to do something here, catching everyone, but the Forever is just not be able to do anything.
As we throw it back to us, unfortunately, something about this patch, when the game ends, it just completely freezes the game. So, unfortunately, we won't necessarily get to see how it concluded. But while that entire fight was happening, Frez was stuck with Brian again in the base. And I was looking at the health bars real quick. Once again, Frez was down to just like that much, so I can assume what happens. Granted, even if Brian and Frez went even, they took each other out, it still would have been pretty much game at that point. That team fight did not go in the favor of St. Clair down by the Dragon. That's kind of what they needed to do. They needed to keep Lassie as safe as possible. You saw he ulted in, he had that massive shield, but it did not matter. Everybody focused in, turned on him, and just absolutely crushed him, no matter what the tank line of St. Clair tried to do. And
yeah,
that's going to put the University of Toronto Mississauga up in the lead for game number 1. But of course, best of 3 action. What do we need to see adjust here going into game 2, Matt?
You know, I think it was, even though the University of Toronto Mississauga had a lead, I believe that it was almost dead even in these fights. They had such a big lead, but the comp wise, you just had the Gragas catching out Kai'Sa with these crazy barrels and following up with a set combo. The Kai'Sa just couldn't do anything. Lazi just gets caught out every single fight, no matter how much damage he puts in. It's just really you have to base a comp around Lazi if you're going to, and have not maybe a Renekton in the top lane, because that really wasn't working out for Kuber 3 there. He was getting almost dumpstered by the Udyr and Gragas, so
Yeah,
may have to throw that Gragas ban out.
he had a really rough time in that top lane. Just like you're saying, the Udyr, Marcelesne just basically knocked on the door of top lane a couple times, and then all of a sudden, Cooper is down 2 levels to the Gragas, and what was his tag? Red Eclipse, that's what it was. He just absolutely took it from there. He had some stellar plays while in the team fights as well. That 4-player knock-up via the flash body slam that we saw earlier was definitely a turning point as well from what could have been a fight that Lazi might have been able to carry damage-wise. That just got completely shut down. But with that, do you have any final thoughts in regards to game number 1 before we quickly throw it to break before game 2?
I think University of Toronto Mississauga definitely played. They came into today playing their game. They played it really well, and I think that if St. Clair want to come back, they're going to have to play just as aggressive as they were and pick those champions that they can get onto the back line and maybe target the ADC and top laner for bans there. But definitely a thrilling series so far.
Yeah, much closer than I was expecting, and I'm not complaining in the slightest. Seeing the ranks of that Toronto Mississauga squad had me worried, but they're definitely putting on a show, and it's not stopping now. We're going to take ourselves a quick 5-minute break to get the next lobby going, but don't go anywhere. Game 2 between the University of Toronto Mississauga and St. Clair College for this cLoL Week 2 action right around the corner. Don't go anywhere. If you've not done so already, be sure to follow us here on the Saints Gaming CA Twitch channel. Of course, your home for the St. Clair Saints Esports Varsity team. And it is going to be an action-packed week up ahead. Of course, we're still not even done just today. And Matt and I will be joining you once again at 8 o'clock tonight, this time for some R6 Collegiate Championship Rainbow Six Siege. Be week 3 of action there. Then tomorrow, 5 p.m., Face It CSGO returns after a solid win last week. Looking to see the CSGO team keep on going, keep pushing strong. You're here for some League of Legends action. You don't have to wait long either. Monday, 8 o'clock, we're back in the Upsurge Minor League, back into the amateur scene. Our first week went very strong. Looking forward to seeing what happens for week number 2. Keep that ball rolling. Then on Tuesday, 8 p.m., we do have Nace, the season opener for Counter-Strike once again. Looking forward to that season, seeing how they can make their run from Face It translate here into Nace. Then League of Legends is back once again, Collegiate League action up against Waterloo. Be sure to follow once again and hang on tight. Game number 2, we're actually hopping into it in any moment here. Stick around. Thanks for sticking with us. We're about to get ready for picks and bans for game number 2 between University of Toronto, Mississauga, and St. Clair College. Saints had themselves a tough one, but they kept it respectable. But Toronto, Mississauga, ended up shutting things down. And we can see we're already like midway through this pick and ban phase. We already have the instantly banned Kaisa, so they're going to try and shut down Lazi. And then the Gragas, you were mentioning, Matt, you had mentioned that they're probably going to take away the Gragas. Sure enough, it's going to be the case, and they leave Camille up instead. Now, in regards to picks, Ezreal once again here for forever. Leona's actually getting picked up by Explosion. And then, of course, the Pantheon, probably going to be from Yansfo. Now a Vayne. So what are we looking at here?
I'm liking the Vayne pick, because they already picked the Ezreal, and I would say it's a pretty good pick into it. Especially with the Pantheon that could go support with it. The only downside is that into a Leona, it's not the best lane, not a fun lane, but you know, it's definitely a surprise pick. I would say the most.
Unless this isn't a support Pantheon, huh?
Yeah, it's going to be Miansfo going back onto the Braum, and Toronto Mississauga picking up the Camille that was banned last game.
Yeah, so Cooper had himself a bit of a hard time there up against Red Eclipse in game number 1. Of course, there was Gragas this time, but Camille, a bit of a lane bully herself. So Cooper, if not careful, could be in a position very similar if Marcelesny is right there to give his lane a little love, to say the least.
Yeah, it's going to be surprising an Ivern ban coming in for the side of Toronto Mississauga. He's definitely been popping up, but I don't see Active Force being the Ivern player that most would have. Followed by Galio and a Seraphine. Seraphine actually coming up more often due to the Moonstone meta that's been showing up, but nobody's wanting to take their pick at it. Sticking in, and they're going to finish the ban phase off with a Yone, not allowing Brian to get back onto that prominent mid lane pick against Frez.
Okay, so they basically shut down, at least took away the champions. They didn't shut them down, but they took away the champions that were the major problems in that last game. Because, of course, it was the top lane kind of ran away. The mid lane really ran away, unfortunately, there. And this I haven't seen in a while. Hello, Evelyn.
Yeah, the Evelyn pick is actually a surprising one. You don't see Evelyn coming up that often in this. Looking like they want to go for that pick out comp for the side of Toronto Mississauga, picking a Camille and Leona. They want to try and get around that map and play that fighting style in team fights. I'm wondering what they want to pick for the jungle. It's going to be the Kayn into the Evelyn. And looking for that final pick of mid lane, unless they send the Pantheon mid.
Yeah, both teams have me confused in regards to team compositions right now, because right now, Toronto Mississauga doesn't have really anything in regards to tank. Okay, you got Frez back on the bird, so this is at least a comfortable pick. But now, what are we looking at in regards to Toronto Mississauga?
Yeah, they're really making Brian here dig into his hat to see what else he can pull out to counter the Anivia, saying, we took your Yona, what else you got here?" And they're gonna go with the Twisted Fate for that mid lane, evening out.
Okay. I
It's
have
gonna be
never. Sorry, go ahead.
so I was saying it's gonna be the Pantheon top lane, which is pretty. I would say it's a even matchup almost into the Camille.
This team composition has me excited because the way that I'm going to explain this composition, at least from what I see as the caster, the outsider looking in here, it's going to sound kind of funny because I'm going to be referencing Eve Online. Basically, this composition that I'm seeing here from the University of Toronto Mississauga, who cares how tanky you are if you can just outrun everything, outmaneuver, and just dodge like crazy? Like, nobody except Leona really gets that tanky on this squad. And even then, Leona main tank feels kind of odd to me. Meanwhile, like, St. Clair, it's a different composition, definitely different from what we've seen in the past from him. We can see Lazzie's Vayne, we can see Cooper on a Pantheon. But I'm just so interested, as we throw this to us for a second, at this high mobility, lack of tank, huge pick composition that we're going to see here from U Toronto Mississauga. I feel like the execution that they're going to have to pull off has to be top notch. Otherwise, they're just going to get clapped.
Yeah, it's definitely they're throwing a lot of their picks into that Leona and possibly Camille being a little bit tanky, but the side of St. Clair, they're looking like they were ready for this. They came in with a Braum and a Pantheon can be pretty tanky, with Pantheon being able to take no damage with his shield, and actually being two shields that take basically no damage. So all that damage they're gonna throw out from the Ezreal and stuff is just gonna get negated.
And I mean, I don't care how fast you are, too. If you have a click and point stun, like I believe Pantheon does, you can blink away. It's still going to chase you and stun you, and it could very well be a pick against you. But this Evelyn, I feel like, is going to be such an interesting nuisance here from Marcel Lesney here, as
Definitely an
I don't
pick.
see it too often.
Definitely something I was not expecting coming in from Marcel. It's one of the more hidden picks, I guess they have. They must have been practicing. Uh, Definitely not one of the more bigger junglers that are currently in the meta. You'd definitely see someone like they could have went to Udyr again, or even a Lilia over the Evelyn, but
Yeah,
clearly have some faith in him.
there was so much meta stuff available, and they just opted to completely throw that out the window, which personally I love. But we'll have to see as we go along here. And to be honest, University of Toronto Mississauga, they have a game to play with. If they want to try something, I mean, you very well could. I mean, I don't like the thought of like feeling overconfident and playing with your food. But if you want to try out a different composition and competitive, and you have yourself an extra game to do so, give it a shot, I suppose. If they want to try to make this high execution pick composition work, give it a shot. I definitely like how basically Evelyn and Twist of Fate could just appear absolutely out of nowhere and just completely blow somebody up. It's gonna be nasty.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be a bloody game again. I would say it's looking like the comps are um pretty even. I would give the edge to St. Clair, honestly, with the extended tankiness they have and engage. You have the Pantheon ulti into the they can counter the TF ulti coming in, but definitely going to be a game we can look forward to and see who can come out on top.
It feels like another situation where if St. Clair can just survive long enough, not get picked on too badly, they'll be A-okay going into the late game. I mean, who better have than like something like a Vayne for late game play? Anivia late game's beautiful. Like Pantheon feels like he's not necessarily a late game character from what I understand, but he's still going to be the solid tank line you need. And with Ansfo's Braum and Active Force's Kane, like just survive these first 20 minutes without completely bleeding out, and I think you're going to be fine.
Yeah, they definitely don't want to draw this game out into a 30-40 minute game like last game, but you want to get this Pantheon ahead, and especially this Vayne ahead. And as we load onto the Rift, it's going to be looking like another 5-point from each other. No one's wanting to throw that contesting out there and do an invade. Unless St. Clair is actually looking. No, they're just looking for that deep ward again.
Yeah, see if they can get themselves some free gold, free experience, but not this time. You can see they actually adjusted where they place it this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting. Frez did actually take the cleanse this time against that TF, so she doesn't get the gold card into death from Evelyn. And another thing to know that the TF did take TP, but he does have Unsealed Spellbook on the side. But it's going to be definitely a bloodbath of a game if things get scrappy early. That's going to be looking like an actual invade of both sides, potentially. Manso's going to spot out the invade. Not much he can do about it, though. And it's going to be trade for reds. And a ward going over to the side of Mississauga. Camille, interestingly, is not actually going back to lane. She's waiting for his Pantheon to roam up.
Uh-oh.
But he's now going back. It must have been that bait of a leash there he was waiting for, but didn't want to stick around for the engage.
It would have been funny to get the jump onto Cooper like that, but not this time. Like you were saying, just going to trade the red buffs over. And now we already have a quick stun here. Lousy also picking up the cleanse here in this game. So just does not want to get picked out by any sort of gold card, any sort of Leona stun. Keeping himself alive at least one time. But there is definitely a lot, or not necessarily a ton, but a decent amount of critical crowd control that Lassie has to be careful of on that vein.
Yeah, and one thing to note, actually, the Evelyn skipped over the Gromp clear, so Active Force is going to have the XP and camp lead over her. Taking Marcel's entire blue or red jungle, he's going to go for a small little gank here, forcing the flash out of Brian.
All right.
And he's going to go back to his bot side and for that go crowd spawning in 15 seconds.
You can tell that this is a matchup now that Frez just feels so much more comfortable in. I feel like going up against a Twisted Fate is just extremely common nowadays. Just the globals oftentimes is just too good to pass up on. So just a little bit more normal. He's able to farm it out. He was even harassing down Brian at least a little bit here, as the wet noodle fight up here in the top lane just keeps on going. Kuber actually getting the best of it, at least as of right now. He's got to be careful. Evelyn is on the same side as him, but actually he might be running into both Frez and Active Force.
It's going to be a stun hitting. It's going to be another flash burn. Active Force burning 2 flashes within the last minute, which is huge for the side of St. Clair.
Get rid of some of the defense, get rid of some of the aggression possibilities with that flash. No over-aggressive plays from Lesney's Evelyn in this case. Going to be going back down towards bot side of things, take the crab instead. Active Force's Kane may be looking to make a play up on the top side. Going to opt for Krugs instead. But once again, mid lane is back and forth here, and it seems like, as of right now, Frez is getting the better of these.
Yeah, it's actually a good thing to know is that they spotted the Kane up top lane, so the Evelyn knows that he's not here. Oh, they could look. It's going to be first blood, actually, just on Brian. Frez coming in huge with that.
All right.
Using that first blood for no flash.
Just somehow, like, just enough damage. Maybe not respecting the amount of early burst damage that the Frez can dish out on that Anivia. It is kind of surprising at times. You think maybe you timed out the frost so you don't get the bonus damage on that icicle, and then all of a sudden a quarter of your health is gone. And it really bit Brian this time by. Gonna have to use his teleport to get back to lane. Granted, he's really close to level 6, so he's gonna have that Destiny, that pretty much map-wide teleport available to him sometime soon. And where do you take the trip first, if you're Brian in this case?
Well, honestly, there's not much you can really do as this TF right now because you have your bot lane shoved in unless you're wanting to dive, or you have the top lane not being shoved in by Red Eclipse. if you're feeling pretty bad as this TF right now after losing that first blood, and definitely feeling pretty good for Frez here in that lane.
I'm very surprised to see the solo kill go over there to Frez, but making that Anivia work. And now they both hit 6 at the same time. This is going to hurt a little bit. Nice little quarter HP chunk. They're going to maybe do it again.
Frez definitely feeling himself this game against this TF. He's definitely played this matchup a lot. Knows how to counter this TF.
He's finding his opportunities to go in. He's getting the little burst damage and then running back before Brian could really fire anything back at him. So far, so good. He's not necessarily doing the strongest in regards to CS in that mid lane, but at least he has the kill to kind of maybe make up for it.
And this bot lane slowly shoving in for this dragon potentially next minute. Kane looking topside. He does have an XP lead over the Evelyn. He's gonna face tank him, but he wins these trades. Evelyn does not have flash. This actually may just be Cooper 3 going down. TF ulti coming in on top of the active force, and it just may go down.
Burning away, but not enough. Barely. Kubra and Actiforus going to get out with just enough HP to keep himself in the game. But a critical ultimate burned in regards to the Destiny. Marcelesny didn't exactly get the best trade either, going to be forced to back. And now, in theory, everybody could just reset, go for Dragon. And sure, Actiforus is going to be down a flash, but other than that, that's basically it.
In the long run, St. Clair does come out on top of that because they did not burn Pantheon's flash at all. They burned only the TF ulti and Kane flash, but as a Kane, you're feeling pretty good that TF misses Q, doesn't hit the wild cards.
Absolutely, and we do see the Saints pinging over that Dragon. We do see, I believe that is Mansfo already there. They might be, in fact, starting this thing.
Yeah, and they have no vision. All they have is that scuttle, but nobody's walking over it. So this is just going to be a free, uncontested drag for the side of St. Clair, and it's going to be infernal.
Yeah, cute little move. I like to see it. Quick Dragon in the pocket now of St. Clair, giving them the tiniest of leads here in this game. Of course, still very early, so 300, still nothing to get worried about in the slightest, but we take those leads when we have them.
And it's looking like it's going to be that red Kane coming in, both Pantheon and Kane building that Gore Drinker component. So they're definitely unlucky for Frez catching him on the other side of the wall there. May have actually been a flash burn there if he gets caught. And it's going to be dead even game in gold. The advantage going to St. Clair. Tons of damage going in Brian. He doesn't have the mana to follow up on it.
And now it's gotten to the point where Frez can actually keep up on CS as well. And actually Kubra, from losing the trades earlier, now has enough to just tank through the initial burst and actually win back that fight, forcing Red Eclipse down to half of his HP. He could do that again, but this is going to be messy. Here comes the Evelyn. Marcelesny going to get the charm off, and good night, Kubra. Red Eclipse going to get the credit for that one.
Yeah, and that's going to be actually 2 flashes burned for 1. That's a bit greedy for Red Eclipse to flash for that finishing on it. Wanting that kill for himself there, but overall, a good gank from Marcel.
Yeah, secured it nonetheless. Kubra does have the teleport available, but he's not going to opt to use it. Just going to walk to mid lane, actually, clean up the minions as Frez went up top to clean up the minions there. So, sure, the kill went underway, but at least farm-wise, St. Clair are actually in this game. There is no big discrepancies in regards to farm. And if anything, Saints, for the most part, are in the lead, but not by much. So neck and neck here with this crazy Masters, Grandmasters, and I think one Challenger squad of University of Toronto, Mississauga. That's what we like to see.
Yeah, it's definitely an exciting game between the two. St. Clair giving it all against this squad, making them work for their plays. One thing to note is that the TF is actually not going for a Ludens or Protobell. He's going for a Night Harvester. So he's looking for that straight burst onto whoever he gets on.
Yeah, and unless he really finds Lassie, I don't know if he's going to be able to really burst anybody per se. But still, a good chunk nonetheless.
Yeah, definitely. Game's less bloody than the first one. This is going to be a gank bot lane. It's going to be Active Force sitting behind. It's a TP coming in from top lane. It's going to be Lazi getting really low. He's going to go down. Cooper 3 may have been caught out now. It's going to turn into a winning fight for the side of Toronto Mississauga.
Okay, party time bot lane. Everybody's invited except the bird, as we do see like Frez continuing to push up. That's mid lane, but Brian just going to teleport back. And okay, that's going to be yet another, unless he can turn this. Almost, but not quite.
So close. Everyone almost getting caught out there with that Iron Spike, I believe it's called. Almost catching Evelyn on the 1-for-1. But it's going to be 4-for-0, I believe, on the side of University of Toronto Mississauga.
Yeah, I don't think anybody went down. It really stunk for the side of St. Clair as soon as that, like the teleport started coming in, as soon as TF came in. Lassie was basically already down to half HP, if not less. And I don't even think the Camille was necessarily aiming for Lassie, but it did actually catch him crossing through while he was stealthed from the ultimate. And just did not work in the favor. Lassie couldn't get any damage off, which granted, Vayne has a little bit of damage, but it's not necessarily the high damage that we're used to seeing in the late game, so to speak. But Saints just didn't get anything off that, which is really rough to see.
Yeah, and big roam down from the TF there, catching Lazi, but they're actually going to look to catch the Leona here on a ward, burning that sonar flare.
Oh, small victories.
But they're burning a crucial ultimate actually right as Drake spawns, so Actifor is trying to make his way down there. And they know where the Evelyn is off these pings are showing in the red jungle.
I mean, this is where Toronto Mississauga is going to find their strengths, being able to get those huge jumps before like the Saints really situate themselves. If they take really any poke or lose any abilities prior to the engagement happening, it feels like they're basically going to get popped. But
yeah,
like something like a dragon, if Saints are already there, that might not be where they want to try and go, as we do see them going over to come play with Shelly, the Ref's Herald, up here in the top side. Nobody from Saints are going to contest that. Just take the dragon. Number 2 of the game so far for the St. Clair Saints. 1 kill, 2 dragons, and trying to maybe push the spot lane a little bit.
And this is actually really in a really bad spot for Kubra, having his tower down to such a low. It looks like the Evelyn's going right behind him to drop that Herald and possibly dive him. This may be really bad for Kubra.
I think you might have called that to a T. Here they come in the top lane. Active Force in the jungle as well, nearly getting picked out. And Cooper going to try and run away, block as much as possible, but there's just too much damage. He's going to get popped nice and quick. Goodbye to your tower, and goodbye to your life. We got a tower back, but can we get a kill in return? We'll have to see.
No mana TF TPing down here with his ulti. He can't do anything.
Yeah.
Except Protobell, and this is going to be Lazi catching a kill here, but he's going to go down in return. TF, he's just gold carding. It's going to actually turn into a 2-for-1. The 1 gold card.
I feel like that gold card, did it even come out? I feel like it maybe even like timed out in his hands, but like
yeah.
Oh, hello,
may
Frez.
Actually catch Froze forever here. Overextending for this minion wave. It's going to be Frez catching another kill, making it a 2-for-2.
All right, small victories, and that's a good kill.
Yeah, the extra greed from Forever, wanting that minion wave, but Frez with a great roam down there, catching him out.
The bird does not fly fast, but when it does arrive, it is deadly. Frez getting 2 kills to start off this game. Already 2 more than I think he had all of in the last game, unless he got 1 near the end. But a very much stronger start. His CS numbers are fantastic, has 2 kills under his belt. He will be a much bigger factor in this game as we move forward. Yes, Red Eclipse is really giving Kubra a hard time up in the top lane, but at least Kubra is if he can just hop in, stun somebody critical, and the team fight continues from there, then okay. In a sense, you kind of did your job. You did what you needed to do. But I'll have to see, because he's not going to be really packing much of a punch himself. But teamed up, he'll be okay.
Definitely a Brute in the jungle or in the mid lane now with those 2 kills. Critically, the Kane now getting his form, so big fights are gonna be coming out now. Everyone finishing their items. 2 proto belts in the jungle and mid lane. They're actually looking possibly top lane, but they're gonna call it off.
Probably wise. It felt like they were rather really forcing that, but wise to back off in this situation. But we do see Lazy and Mansfield going back towards that blue area. They could get turned on if they're not careful. But no real objectives on the map at the moment. Everybody's going to farm up a little bit. Saints down just under over 3,000 gold in this situation, and give or take. But a much closer game. Now, a proto belt, Twisted Fate. Is this something we see normally?
Yeah, it's definitely for that extra range. You get that proto belt in, and most likely he's going to build a rapid fire next if he's feeling greedy, and he gets that proto belt extra range, and he could gold card that Vayne. This may be Kubra actually getting caught out. Insta TF. Oh, there's going to be a blue card TF. That's not what you want to see.
The blue card.
That's going to be Kubra walking away. Unfortunate for Brian. But
you wipe the brow if you're Kubra in this situation, but what about Frez? He's got to be careful. There's still 3 members near this midsection. He's going to opt to back out, since he doesn't know where everybody's at, so probably a wise call. But the blue card coming in from Brian, yeah.
That's an unfortunate thing. You hate to see it, really. But it's going to be everyone resetting right as Drake spawning the next 30 seconds. Forever going to try and get his back in as quickly as he can. And Mansfield in active force clearing out all the wards. University of Toronto Mississauga has been actually getting this vision. They've been completely destroying St. Clair almost in this vision game. But one big thing to note, actually, Marcel just used his smite. It won't be up on Drake spawn. So they may have, unless they draw it out, this is going to be like a 30-second timer on smite.
Oh, that could be nasty. Lazy's going to get dove on right away, trying his best to get away from Red Eclipse, but Lazy has absolutely nowhere to go. Going to get sliced away. Marcel Leslie taking him down. Might be the 1-for-1. Actually, I don't know. It's getting a little bit messy. A nice grouped up situation here. Ooh. Might be perfect for Frez to do some damage. An Explosion Axe is not going to be long for this world. That's going to be a double kill for Kubra. Get himself back in the game. Active Force is still going, transversing these walls like it's nobody's business. And actually, a 3-for-1 on the side of St. Clair.
It's huge for St. Clair. They're going to get that Dragon Soul Coin, and Lazy just getting completely targeted by the team, but the Braum ulti keeping everyone off, and he's lived for so long and drew out the fight that Pantheon and the Kane just completely dumpster them. This is actually Forever getting way too greedy for that.
Oh,
by a
he wanted it so bad.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he still had egg either way, so it was just going to be a really bad thing. That's going to be Frez picking up his 3rd kill of the game. Feeling huge on this Nivea.
A night and day difference compared to game number 1, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Kubra is not having a fun game. He's just getting 3-man ganked. That's going to be him going down. Brian barely making it out from tower range there.
That's the awkward thing, though, about these dives, is you don't necessarily have a tank unless there is a Leona with you. But Saints might be turning this, given the fact that Marcelesny showed himself bot. They're turning this towards the Baron. Active Force is here. The only one right now is Forever and Explosion Axe. There is the True Shot Barrage.
That's going to be a double TP. Hitting Vayne is crucial. After actually Leona getting on Vayne, stunning him up. That's going to be Baron going over to Active Force and trading the Leona kill. So 1-for-1 so far, and I think St. Clair's just going to disengage here.
And the wall coming out there from Frez is going to stop this push dead unless Marcel Leslie could somehow catch somebody on the side of Saints slipping. But they're going to stay grouped up in this situation. Thankfully so. But granted, the fact that that was a 4v5 at best for St. Clair and they were able to squeak a Baron out on 3 of their members at least, that was some quick thinking.
Yeah, and that's actually a huge play for St. Clair to spot the Evelyn when he dove bot lane and just take Baron for it. Active Force hitting that smite on even while under CC from the Camille, and they just trade kills, jungler for support. And it's going to be St. Clair coming out on top with the Baron.
It's kind of the second time we've seen this where, yes, this composition can absolutely dive onto Lassie and just make his life a living hell. Or they can dive in onto Kubra and just like really make it very difficult for him. But it's twice now that when they've dove, they've either taken too much damage trying to get to their target of choice, or they've put themselves out of position to the point where another objective is on the board. And they have to really be careful moving forward here, because now this is basically a dead-even game. And, like, sure, they have kill power, but are they being strategically sound? I don't think so in this situation as we move forward towards the mid to late game.
Yeah, it's went from having a 3k lead in the favor of University of Mississauga, but St. Clair just tying it dead even with Drake spawning most likely next minute 30. It's just going to be lanes being shoved out and St. Clair just gaining gold.
And oddly enough, in this scenario, I'm actually more scared of Frez compared to Lassie right now, at least. Frez, with 3 kills, 3 assists, no deaths, has some items in his hands, can keep pushing lanes aside, negating any sort of aggression, which in turn will let Lassie just farm up and eventually be an absolute Demon Slayer. So, like, Saints are actually, like, strategically, as long as they don't get themselves caught out time and time again, are not in a bad spot, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're pretty much in the driver's seat of this game. They have 3 dragons to their name. This may be the Evelyn catching the Vayne. Oh, so unlucky for Marcel. Hitting Protobelt in ulti, but nothing coming from it. Lozzie getting the back.
That was actually so close.
Yeah, it's really crucial now because the Vayne has completed her Rage Blade, so this next fight at Dragon in a minute, it's definitely gonna decide where this game's going.
Yeah, these 5-on-5s, unlike the last game where it felt like anytime Saints took a 5v5, I felt like they were going to lose. I feel like in this situation now, anytime there's a proper 5v5 where nobody gets picked or anything prior to the fight actually happening, Saints, in theory, should be able to take this in a landslide, considering now they have multiple threats. They have some tanky bodies as well to try and negate some of this damage. They should be able to blow up the team of pretty much entirety squishies on the side of Toronto.
Yeah, and this is right before the drag spawning. Pantheon does actually pick up a Sterix gauge, so they're getting pretty tanky, but they're actually looking to catch out Frez here on the side. He's going to pop the stopwatch, and Active Force inside the Brian. They're going to take the TF. They're going to actually just force everyone off. And this is a free Dragon Soul, actually, for the side of St. Clair.
Bless the egg of the Phoenix, or whatever you want to call Articuno over there for Frez's Anivia. Sure, you get jumped on, you went down. I thought he was going to be in a world of trouble, but if anything, now they could turn this into the aggression that they were looking for. Brian going down, they take a Dragon, Soul is in their pocket, and now this is going to hurt for the side of Toronto Mississauga. 1 tower down. Saints getting their first tower lead of the series. Much better than the 1-10 that we saw in the last game.
Yeah, definitely in favor of Frez. That last fight, he didn't even burn the egg. He only burned stopwatch, so they still have to burn through his second life. And they actually have cut off this Evelyn, but unfortunate. Oh, goes over the wall. And she gets away with the flash Protobelt. Crucial with Evelyn having no escape.
I mean, that Evelyn ult still has some decent damage to it, and like when they stacked up, it actually took like a quarter off of everybody. But
Yeah. Looking like
nobody to follow up.
Toronto Mississauga is looking to find them, but only able to find the crab, and they're going to take that and leave. But St. Clair definitely in the driver's seat of this game.
Not by much, but yes, for the time being, absolutely. And the fact that, well, it's kind of deceiving. Sure, the gold lead isn't that much, but the fact that Saints already have 4 dragons, have the soul in hand, and it's something that I always have a hard time completely comprehending. So when we're saying the dragon soul for scrub lords like me, or for new people to the League of Legends scene, can you explain like what the dragon soul buff necessarily entails in this situation?
Yeah, so the biggest thing in League of Legends now, since 2 seasons ago, is that they took away infinite drakes, and they just made you only can get 4 on your team, and they give excessive buffs now. So you have the side of St. Clair have picked up the Cloud Soul, so they've gotten that CD. And speaking of St. Clair, Kubra getting caught out again, but he's just too tanky unless they're going to commit to it. But he's going to trade Brian's life almost. And they're just going to trade Baron again.
Once again.
So unfortunate for the side of Toronto Mississauga, but that's just going to be Baron going away of St. Clair for free. At the expense of nothing.
My heart always skips a beat whenever I see the True Shot Barrage come across the Baron pit. But not going to be the case this time either. Another Baron for St. Clair. Deja vu, basically, here on the side of St. Clair. Evelyn shows himself bot. Well, how about to the Baron instead? Basically uncontested. Explosion Axe almost got Baron to do some of the dirty work for him, but not going to be the case. And everybody this time on the side of St. Clair buffed up, ready to go.
Yeah, it's definitely a greedy play by the side of University of Toronto Mississauga from wanting to dive the Pantheon this late into the game, especially. They're really looking for things, but they're gonna actually go for this Camille now, and she's locked in with Kubra, but she may get away, and she's gonna turn around and die to Lazi. Number 2
now
going in the pocket of that vein.
Now Lazi's kind of scary. What do you see now in the mid lane? Frez nearly getting popped.
Frez
Goodbye. Okay.
Ooh.
Did he dodge that? Oh no, not quite, but he's alive.
No, he's still got hit up. Actually, maybe forever burning the splash. He actually just may go down here to active force.
Yeah, but one more slice takes care of him. Can they turn on to the Leona as well? Okay, extended 4-4-0. Why not? Nicely done there for the St. Clair squad. These team fights, this is exactly kind of what I was talking about earlier in the game, where once the 5-on-5s or the pickless fights happen, Saints just seem to be in fantastic position, especially since even the Saints in this spot are finding some picks themselves, and you're not winning a 4v5 with such a squishy squad. Free inhibitor, basically, for St. Clair.
Yeah, it's definitely... if you're St. Clair right now, you're feeling pretty good about where this game is going. I would definitely be worried if you were Toronto Mississauga in this situation, because there's not much you can do to come back from this. Unless they're going to catch Frez out here. Yeah, they've got Frez here with the teleport in from TF. That's going to go Meal.
Well, I tell you what, if the Saints just want to like back in really stupid positions and just gift wrap some bounty gold over Delibird style, then by all means, that's one way that University of Toronto Mississauga can get themselves back into this game, because I know Red Eclipse would absolutely love it. But Lassie now is actually on the chase with Active Force and the rest of the St. Clair squad, and this is looking brutal right now in the favor of St. Clair, as 4 fall actually on the side of University of Toronto Mississauga. Make that the ace, and yeah, this might be it.
Yeah, it's looking like St. Clair wants to end here. The quickest they have is 27 seconds, but it looks like University of Toronto Mississauga it's over.
Yeah, but even before they get to the towers, Marcelesny just leaves the game like, hey, okay, we tried something cute, it didn't work. On to game 3. But the Saints fight back and get themselves a Game 3 situation.
Yeah, and that's huge for St. Clair, pulling back with that. Frez coming out huge with that 5-1-3 scoreline against the TF. And the downside of it is that you take out the Nivea, but you just have a Vayne in the back line still, so you have no one to tank that damage for you.
Yeah, a much better feel-good moments here for the entirety of St. Clair. Of course, it's like I'm sure it's bittersweet in a sense because you know that they were probably just trying this composition because they were up a game. But the fact that you didn't fall for it is still a huge win. And now you have the momentum on your side going into game number 3. Is there any final thoughts in regards to game 2 that you have before we do throw it to a very quick break before we get the final game underway?
I think St. Clair's, they're looking pretty strong now after that game. University of Toronto, Michigan may have been trying something new, but it didn't look like that first game really affected St. Clair at all. They used that knowledge they got from the first game and used it to their advantage in the second, and just it pushed them into a victory here. So it's looking pretty good for St. Clair coming to game 3.
Definitely could not say better myself. And I'm happy that they didn't fall for the the squishy speed tank style that they were trying with the picks and whatnot. But we'll have to see what happens for game number 3. Of course, I assume that the pick and bans are going to look much different, maybe a little bit closer to what we've seen in game number 1. But we'll have to see in just a moment, of course, because we are going to throw this to a very, very quick break as we get ready for game 3, get the lobby up and running. Going to have ourselves an exciting game 3 finish. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. With how fast they're going from game 1 to game 2 and now to game 3, I feel like I'd be watching Rocket League, but that's not going to be the case. We're here for game 3 of cLoL between St. Clair College and the University of Toronto, Mississauga. And of course, after an interesting pick and ban phase that we saw last time by, this one is probably going to be a little bit more serious. In fact, so serious that the Anivia is already banned. Not going to let Frez have that pick, but that left open the Kaisa for Lazi.
Yeah, and one thing to note that University of Toronto Mississauga, they're not opting to go for any side selection. They're sticking to that red side every game. So they're forfeiting this first pick every single time to keep this counter for Brian, which did not work out in his favor last game against Frez's Anivia.
Granted, now with that Anivia gone, I'm curious as to see what they're going to end up going with. Of course, Galio on the board now. Could be mid, could be support. Possibly top even.
a huge pickup because usually they always ban out the Galio second phase. So University of Toronto Mississauga picking up the Galio Camille early for that Wombo combo.
Of course, the Camille coming out, like you're saying, the Wombo combo. And I mean, if there was one thing that worked extremely well for University of Toronto Mississauga last time by, it was Red Eclipse up on that top lane. And it looks like Kubra 3 going to try something a little different this time into the Camille. Going to pick up the Gator for that top lane battle. And I mean, forever keeping his Ezreal, no real surprise there. Has been a solid factor, but hasn't had the wow factor, but he's always been like a or he has always been a factor. I didn't want to use factor with factor, but you know what I mean. He's always been a factor at the end of the games, specifically. But
looking like St. Clair's sticking to their game one comp almost, having the same 3 picks in the same order actually, wanting that Sejuani and Renekton to stack the Sejuani passive, but throwing in the Talia ban for that jungle. Side of Toronto Mississauga gonna pick off the Braum and Leona the second round. They don't want to deal with Miansfo's Braum 3 rounds in a row. And what's the last ban gonna be for St. Clair?
I've taken 2 shots at the support pool with that Braum and Leona taken off. Explosion Act tried the Leona last time. It's like, you know what? I'm not really feeling this. Let's just take it off the board. And then the Kindred as the final ban here, targeting towards Marcelesny's jungle.
Yeah, it's definitely a bigger pick here. They're opting to ban the Kindred over anything else as they believe it's going to be a huge threat. And they're going to opt in for that Udyr, leaving mid lane to counterpick Frez again. Ooh, almost going for the Trundle there, but
they're thinking about it.
To that.
Yeah, so we need a support and we need a mid laner for the side of St. Clair. I guess to get the confirmation that Toronto needs either the support or the mid laner. Because, of course, that Galio could kind of get flexed around a little bit.
Going for the Raka, potentially. And they're going to stick with it. The Soraka coming in for Miansfo. Really interesting. Not a pick you would see, but definitely something that Miansfo must be confident on into this matchup.
Always boggles my mind because, at least in my opinion, the Soraka is completely against everything that Miansfo wants to do. However, the last time that he did pull this out during one of the Collegiate League matches, it did have some solid effectiveness, and it really helps keep everybody safe going into the mid and late game, which is, I'm sure, where they want to get to as like take their time and get there and get all farmed up. And then seeing Frez on the Orianna, this makes me happy as well. It's going to make this Yone lane maybe not as painful as it could have been. But we're starting to see a lot of familiar faces here on both sides. Active Force back on his Sejuani, and him and Kubra are going to be fantastic targets for some shockwave combos from Frez. And then just that extra little bit of utility from Orianna, and then the healing from Soraka. Just try to keep both Frez and Lassie alive, because at least when it gets to the late game, they're the only ones who are really going to be dishing out anything.
Yeah, it's going to be most likely Kubra or the Active Force taking in that ball as a carrier for Frez. And last time he played this on Monday last week, he looked really good on it in the Upsurge League. He was I don't think he even died that game. He hitting massive 4-man shockwaves almost every time, and really excited to see what he's going to pull out into this Yone that tore through the team in the first game. It's definitely going to be something to look for.
Absolutely, because I'm kind of nervous here for the St. Clair squad, because a lot of these champions I was saying before, the familiar faces of sorts, are here. You've got Camille again or Red Eclipse. We've seen this work already. Granted that they didn't win that game, but they absolutely destroyed that top lane. The Udyr again was an absolute nuisance to deal with in game number 1. Granted, it took them maybe a little bit longer to clean up and finalize that game 1. Maybe like really took their time with that, but was still an absolute unit in the end. Brian's Yone, we seemed essentially super effective during game number 1. Really made Lazi, Frez, basically everybody's life extremely difficult. Being able to blink all over the place, it felt like, and then just do chunks and chunks of damage. And then Forever, he's just comfortable. He's on his Ezreal. He's doing his thing. He'll be a factor. And just let me farm. Let me do what I gotta do. And now he's got Explosion Act, who's going to be picking up the Galio, which is usually a champion that Saints don't like dealing with. So I'm a little bit nervous for St. Clair, but I feel like they've at least drafted the tools necessary to turn this one into their favor. But it's going to take a little bit of execution. Not as much as the speed tank style that we saw from University of Toronto, Mississauga in Game 2. But it's still going to be a little execution heavy, I feel.
Yeah, if I'm Kuba right now, my hands are shaking. I'm sweating I'm wiping my sweat off my forehead because I see that Udyr and I know where he's gonna be all game. So, but with the Udyr top lane, it actually opens up bot lane a bit more with the Soraka, because having that Soraka, it's really putting a tax on the ADC. He's having to get the executioners early, so Soraka isn't doing as much, but is really giving that lane a bit more sustain with the healing and overall global healing if they dive ever onto Kuber like they have been for the past 2 games.
And usually trying to deal with Soraka, you have to burst her from the most part. Otherwise, you just kind of heal back up, and then, sure, she loses some mana, but you've probably lost some HP in the meantime trying to do that trade, and you just lose out in the long run. May not be the most threatening, but it just doesn't go down. But at the same time, though, Ezreal, not too bad in regards to burst to start things off at least. And as game goes on, can still be a strong like burst ADC when necessary. But then the Galio, I feel like he can pack a decent punch to start things off at least. Otherwise, he just becomes an absolute wall. And you can never disrespect the taunt.
Yeah, and he's definitely going to be their main engage with the Camille, and definitely going to be something to watch for from that early game. Luckily, it doesn't have that ability to taunt flash anymore, so don't have to worry about a flash from a Galio in a bush. But going to be something to watch to see how they will do. I'm surprised to see that Forever's taking that Ezreal 3 games in a row, not opting to go for something like a Misfortune even into this Kaisa or something. But they're really putting their money into this Ezreal, get it to work.
I mean, if it ain't broke, you don't have to necessarily fix it. He feels comfortable. Is he the biggest impact? Maybe not, but he's still doing what he needs to do. But without further ado, of course, hopping into the game, the decider, game number 3 for this college League of Legends matchup. The Toronto Mississauga versus St. Clair College. Game 1, of course, was a rough one for St. Clair, with Toronto Mississauga taking that relatively handily. Game 2, Toronto Mississauga tried to get a little bit cute, but it did shut them down. We'll have to see how this one goes up, as it's not necessarily the cute composition. This feels kind of standard. Looking forward to seeing how this turns out.
Getting flashbacks at game 1 with the only 2 changes really on both sides, with the Camille in the top lane and the Galio in the bot lane. And same for mid and support for St. Clair. One thing to know is that the Camille did not take flash. She took the Ignite TP, so she's really looking for that 1v1 potential against this Renekton.
Gosh, just absolutely dead set on making Cooper's life an absolute living hell up there in that top lane. But if Active Force likes to make a visit, he could probably abuse that.
Yeah, and one thing to know is that this is going to be the first game that they're actually going to use that Moonstone, which I'm assuming the Rock is going to have. So it's going to be actually very, very big healing. He's coming out of Mansfell if he doesn't get jumped on. So if you don't take care of this Soraka in team fights, you're basically just gonna have to forfeit the game.
Yeah, so a little taunts, but just a little bit of poke damage. Nothing that Manspo can't shake off. But the Moonstone, this is something that I've been hearing pretty consistently throughout any of the pro series and as well here in the collegiate scene. As you see, we're taking a little bit of poke damage. Can you give me a rundown exactly what makes this Moonstone so crazy and why it could be the reason we're seeing a lot more healers?
Yeah, so this Moonstone is just really a big factor in a lot of these pickups. The Lulu top lane, the Ivern jungle, and even Lilia and Nidalee going in Moonstone. It's just the healing ability that they have. It increases how much they can heal you over time. So with Soraka being able just to heal you every 2 seconds, the more she heals, the more she's just gonna get it out. Just you could have a 1 HP Renekton and he'd be back up in 5 seconds.
Makes sense. That makes sense. And of course, Soraka, the lower your health is, the faster she runs at you. So the mobile ambulance of sorts.
Yeah.
Keeping everybody all topped off. And if those heals are boosted, again, it's burst or nothing, because sustained fights you're just going to lose.
Oh, it looks like Cooper may be getting a bit greedy here for this, but they're going to take down Red Eclipse potentially. And they're going to get first blood on Red Eclipse, but they're going to trade it back. Cooper's going to lose his life to Marcel. And it's going to be a 1-for-1. Both Flash on Active Force and Cooper gone.
A little
It's going to be the double TP. They're actually going to pick up Active Force here. And Cooper is just wondering where my jungler went.
Yeah, Active Force went back in, and at that point, I think you just run under your turret and hope. Because as soon as you see that TP come in, you're probably going to expect that you're going to be in for a world of hurt. And
yeah, I can understand where they're coming from. They were hoping they could get the TP in, but Camille had it in before Renekton and just like, bursted down too far before Renekton even got there.
And it's going to be probably very similar situation to what we saw during game 1 and 2, where Kubra is just going to have an absolute tough time here in the top lane. In a position where he may have to even go back again, considering how often we've seen Red Eclipse get aggressive with them.
Yeah, you really don't want to be in this top lane anymore. You just hoping though it gets to 15 minutes before you die again, but it's probably not going to be the last time you see Marcel in that top lane with Red Eclipse.
This is when you wish that the lane swap meta was still a thing, right?
Yeah, this is one of those times where, oh, Cooper almost getting one shot by the Camille there. If she was greedy, she could have actually just taken the kill, but gonna opt for the tower plates instead, forcing Cooper out. 20 CS down now.
Yeah, unfortunately there for Kubra. This has just not been his series. Red Eclipse has had his number on pretty much every single occasion in this lane, and he's been basically, other than game 2, game 1 was absolutely rough. That's the Pantheon game. He was at least able to help make plays, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult considering the, not the lack of mobility, but you're not diving from across the map to try and help make a play. This Renekton is a little bit slower in that regard and a little bit weaker, so Kubra having a hard series to say the least.
Definitely focusing all their attention top lane. I don't think the only time they've really shown bot lane is in when everyone TPs for 5v5, but Marcel actually going for this early drag here. The first of the series that University of Toronto Mississauga is going to pick up, but that's actually a huge knock-up and follow-up from Active Force. It's going to burn Brian's flash. Huge shockwave coming in from Frez, catching him mid-ulti.
That was actually like perfect timing. Pulled him right out of it, but unfortunately with Marcel Leslie showing that he killed the dragon, he was close, but here we go again. Nice taunt though, that's going to shut that down.
Yeah, it's huge from Explosion Act to catch Lazi in the taunt there, or he would have flashed on top of Forever. But a minor misplay from Forever, getting caught in the silence from Soraka.
Yeah, had him stuck. One more shot really would have sealed the deal, but now gonna be probably forced to back. Actually, still hanging around, so Saints,
Yeah,
if
that-
they
those-
catch him getting greedy, then maybe they might be able to get something, but Marcel Leslie is nearby in case something like that happens.
Yeah, definitely those pots and relic procs are gonna heal him up, but they're both gonna take the reset now and wave return to neutral state. Kubra's still not having a fun time up here. He's gained about 6 CS since the last time we looked there. Almost down a total of 60 CS now. Sejuani actually ganking here, but this is going to be Frez face tanking the Udyr. He's just going to go down. It's going to be an 0 for 2 aside of St. Clair.
That extra little roam there from Explosion Act was actually so clutch. We did see Mienzo try to do the same thing, but too little, too late.
They're not done yet. They're going to dive Kubra, and this is not a fun time to be a Renekton. Yeah, he's just going to get taunted up. There's actually going to be a trade kill on Eclipse, potentially, but they're both going to get out almost 1 HP. Frez not able to do anything. An unfortunate occurrence.
Unfortunately there for Frez, he did fire off that shockwave and it only caught Explosion Act, who wasn't doing any damage to any of the champions anytime recently. So just was able to walk away without worrying about the tower really taking him down.
May actually get an overstay from Toronto Mississauga. Frez not in range though to catch up, and he's just going to speed away. That phase rush. Too powerful. They're not done yet. This may be overstay though. It's actually going to be Bryant wasting his ult to get out.
I was going to say, how far are you going to chase this? You're starting to go into the jungle, but they eventually did just turn around and opt to go for the Rift Herald, which will be a nice consolation prize considering everything that went down. But while all that action was happening, Forever's just been able to take his time down there in the bot lane and just farm up the push.
Toronto Mississauga wants to give this up for free. They're going to get the Herald, but it's going to be Mianspo possibly getting caught out. And Forever getting 1v1 by Lazi right now. He's going to have to burn the Eve. Lazi flashes the wall, and there's a fight in the river here. Lazi taking from Forever, and this is going to be Kubra falling down to the 4 members of Toronto Mississauga, following by Mianspo.
That is
It's
brutal.
Gonna be
At some...
maybe even Active Force here. It's not done yet, but he's going to smite. Hit it. It's going to be everyone here now. This is just a party. I mean, Active Force actually opting back to go in, sealing the deal. It's going to be basically a delayed ace from the side of... Actually, no. Lazi down bottom is supposed to survive. It's going to be a 4 for nothing.
Brutal stuff right there for the Saints. They took that fight while Frez was farming in mid. And I think minions were pounding on the tower, so let's go deal with that. And imagine having that extra utility of the Orianna ball, that extra shield, all that AoE damage. When they were all clumped up in that bush right next to the river, that would have possibly been at least a deterrence to try and keep that going. But unfortunately, it was all gone. And by the time that lane was cleaned up and Frez was able to get there, everybody was basically dead and was still like healthy enough to keep on diving. It was a rough time all around there after that. So a huge team fight win. Going to put the Saints like 6,000 behind almost.
Yeah, it looks like they're trying to play top lane to possibly burn Camille's TP, but she's not going to fall for it. And they're going to give some money over to Cooper here. Catching Brian out on the rotate. Active Force trying to 1v1 him. 3 levels down. That's actually just going to be Cooper falling again for the 4th time this game. And actually, it's actually getting worse. That's going to be... Oh, that's going to be an 0 for 3 with the Wombo combo. This is just getting more brutal by the second.
That one was gift wrapped, to say the least.
Yeah.
Again, like, I mean, of course, League is an extremely fast-paced game nonetheless, but yes, you see the 2 up top. Sure, one person got cut out. Sometimes that happens. But to instantly turn your focus to the crap when nobody except the bot lane was like showing up there, all you saw was Forever on the minimap, is a overzealous play, to say the least there, and unfortunately Saint's paying for that big time. Kubra still just absolutely suffering here in this top lane. Trying to farm up the best he can, but 80 to 37. You can really see the expertise coming out here from Red Eclipse. He's been able to absolutely dominate this lane since the series began.
Yeah, it seems like they're playing back to how they were in game 1 with this Yone getting ahead, but it seems the only saving grace right now for the team is Lazi in the bot lane, having that small lead over his opponent, but I don't know if that's enough to actually save St. Clair from the deficit they're in right now. They clearly have changed sides in this, as instead of St. Clair getting the first 2 drags, they've opted to have the first 2 drags lost and they take Herald instead, so
Yeah,
looking
they got a
bit
couple
different.
plates, but that was really it all the way up in the top lane. But otherwise, this one has been just looking absolutely flawless on the side of the University of Toronto Mississauga.
Yeah, and I even think that the Herald top lane that Active Force had for Cooper may have been too greedy, because I don't know if it was worth it. It's going to be Yone ulti forcing Frez's flash out. Almost taking him down, but in the meantime, they actually did take first tower mid lane. While they were probably after the double kill on River.
Turret plating will fall soon.
There's an early game basically close to done in this situation, and I feel like we're basically in a deja vu of game number 1 where all the eggs are back on the bot lane's basket, and that's a rough place to try to be in. Granted, at least this time here, Frez on the Orianna has a little bit of extra playmaking potential and isn't strictly like crowd control kind of focus like the Anivia sometimes can be, but it's still a rough time nonetheless. 84 CS compared to 119, and when you're finding yourself caught out pretty consistently, a shockwave or not is not going to change the difference here, as the rest of the Saints come running into the mid lane to see their fallen comrade. Basically a drive-by in the mid lane just keeps on happening here. Frez having himself a bad day, to say the least.
Yeah, it's definitely looking like he's playing that game 1 again, just on a different champion. Having that 0-4 scoreline, just not having a fun day against this Yone. But it's definitely looking pretty rough for the side of St. Clair, being down 9,000 gold and 2 towers. Make that 3 now.
It very well could just be something in regards to the matchup, because of course when it was the Twisted Fate, like, Frez looked right at home. But there's something about this assassin playstyle of Brian's Yone that is just irritable to deal with. I could only imagine 0-5 and 0 in this situation, all 5 of those being depths, of course. Definitely a rough time. I don't care who you are. Brian's just on fire today.
Yeah, that's definitely rough for Frez. He got killed under tower through a Soraka ulti too. Just unstoppable on this Yone, Brian is. That was without ulti too.
Yeah, it's not like he's like super overextending. He's trying to farm under turret, and then Brian is just I see you, I kill you basically in this situation. 5 kills already in this game. Some nice bounties on the side of University of Toronto Mississauga, which could be a turning point if collected. But even looking at Marcel Lesney, just absolutely on fire as well. 4 kills, no deaths, 8 assists, absolutely all over the place. Has been a part of every kill except 2.
Yeah, it's definitely looking like they're trying to seal the deal here with this game. Not giving St. Clair anything but 2 kills. Herald spawning now, and looks like they're looking to get it on the side of Toronto Mississauga. One thing to know is that Lazi has not been a part of one of these fights yet, except for a solo kill bot lane, but we get to see how he will be when it turns into a 5v5. If he'll make a difference.
Yeah, that's going to be the saving grace, or the straw that breaks the camel's back, basically. Does he live enough to deal as much damage as possible when we get towards these late game scenarios? If yes, then we have hope again. It could be another spot like game number 1 where Toronto Mississauga had a really hard time actually finishing the game. But as soon as Lassie gets picked out, it's basically done. It feels like anyway.
Yeah, and this is really bad for Slicing Clair because they're losing that soul almost. They're one dragon away from getting Infernal Soul, which is going to be devastating for the side of St. Clair. But they may have caught Marcel out here. They're using everything. Lazi and Axforce is ulti down. They're going to get combo. Huge combo coming out. That's going to be 3 going down, and their eyes are on mid lane now.
Absolutely massive play coming out of the University of Toronto Mississauga. Line them up, clump them up, and just knock them all up, essentially, where everybody just gets absolutely dropped. Brian and the rest of the Toronto Mississauga squad just dealt so much damage so quickly, and I would imagine that mid turret's probably gone now.
Yeah, and that's just really unlucky for St. Clair getting clipped on the very rim of the Galio ulti into the Yone ulti. It's just so devastating to see. But the side of Toronto Mississauga, they're just tearing through St. Clair and showing them what they did in game 1, basically, and what they could have done better.
Well, it'll be how they decide to close this off here. Of course, Baron hasn't even necessarily spawned yet. They might be able to squeak one more Rift Herald out of the deal. And then, of course, you had brought it up earlier that Dragon Soul is actually right around the corner as well. One more Dragon in the pocket of Toronto Mississauga, and they'll be all buffed up even further. And that'll be brutal.
Yeah, looks like St. Clair's only saving grace in this game is unless they steal a Baron or miraculously win a team fight and cash in. And if they can survive, if they lose that Dragon Soul, it's almost done for them. I feel like the only way they can get in is if they can survive to Elder Drag. It looks like Lazi's trying to take a 1v1, now making it a 2v2. Brian getting out of there, leaving Explosion all by himself. It's going to be Cooper getting 1v1 under the tower, and it's going to be Cooper going down. And this fight's not over top lane. Active Force going in, they're looking huge shockwave, finding 2 members. It's going to be a huge shutdown for Active Force, cashing in then 950 gold. But that's going to be an inhib tower going down bot lane to the Camille.
That's just it. That's great. You got one bounty, but at what cost? And you can see they're actually stopping the ports, pushing them forward. Active Force got to go down. Lazi going to find himself with his second death of the game. Meanwhile, just a Sunday night stroll down in the bot lane here for Red Eclipse. Just cleaning out the Gator and then just going after the inhibitor, taking care of that all by himself. A solid little play there from the University of Toronto Mississauga to make sure that the Saints couldn't back. To just let Red Eclipse have all the time in the world. And even after that, they're going to give themselves some more turrets.
Yeah, and Red Eclipse is just having the time of his life against Kubra. Just like time after time, just 1v1ing him and just taking him out. 0-6 on the Renekton. You're not having a fun time. And it looks like they're looking to Baron now off this. St. Clair just doesn't have a response to it.
Yeah, no vision in the spots. They have to deal with super minions. Trying to get everybody over there is going to be difficult. And this Baron is just melting. Going to be going over to the side of Toronto Mississauga like it's nobody's business. Gather rounds. Going to probably shove something. And try not to waste as much time as they did during game number 1. See if they can close out their execution skills a little bit stronger.
And it's looking like, honestly, this may just have sealed the deal for Toronto Mississauga's win. It's almost 20,000 gold up. St. Clair pulling up a bit to make it only 11,000, or 13,000, my mistake. But still a very big deficit they're in, having to come out of, with Drake spawning the next minute as well.
Run.
Luckily, there's no tower there, so the Herald is just going to slowly die. Frozen Active Force, so they shove in mid lane with Baron.
When a lone Shelly is a menace, you might need to start worrying. It took a long time for that Rift Herald to go down, but it's just the nature of the game here in this point. Right now, the University of Toronto Mississauga showing that why they're all Masters and Grandmasters as the team fight breaks down right onto Lassie. He's not long for this world. Good night. Marcel Lesney going to take care of that. Explosion acting alongside the rest of the Toronto Mississauga squad. going to absolutely clean the floor with the Saints squad. Minions coming in for the finisher. Everything is going in the favor of University of Toronto Mississauga, and we're going to have ourselves more than likely a very quick under 30-minute game. As both the Nexus Towers fall, it's going to be University of Toronto Mississauga winning the series 2-1.
Yeah, and well played by University of Toronto Mississauga there. Only giving up 3 kills the entire game. Not a single objective was taken by St. Clair except for that first Rift Herald. But what a stomp of a game that University of Toronto Mississauga had. They have to be feeling really good about that win.
Absolutely. And then on paper, when I had seen the matchup and whatnot, this was kind of the kind of game that I was worried about. It's how does Toronto Mississauga finally get their lead and then close in on it? They finally did exactly what I was expecting them to do from the start. Because game 1, they won, but it looked sloppy. Game 2, okay, they got cute. They tried something and it didn't work. Game 3, okay, that just looked exactly what I would expect out of a Masters, Grandmasters kind of team. And they look fantastic, don't get me wrong, and then I'm still going to give props to the Saints in this situation. Given the team's caliber compared to themselves, they were definitely the underdogs. They took a game and made sure that they didn't lose to the silly style that they tried earlier, the silly experimental team composition.
Mm-hmm.
But when it was a standard fight, when Frez was up against Brian and Sayone instead of the Twisted Fate, bit of a more obscure matchup, that was difficult. Kubra was basically at the mercy of Red Eclipse that entire series. Just was absolutely on top of things. Active Force was holding his own alongside Marcel Lesney, but just some of those fights just went in the favor of Toronto Mississauga much more often. And then there's nothing you can really do about solo kills as the jungler, as much as you try. And then Lazi Miansfo, they kind of just tucked their head between their knees and farmed until the late game, where they did have some standout moments, absolutely. They made some plays, but it was just all on their shoulders in regards to damage for the most part in game 1 and 3, and you get caught, you're done.
Yeah, it's definitely a very big win in that third game. It's basically this first game, but they cleaned up a lot of the sloppiness they had, like you said. I do think that they did try and go back to that same level of draft in the first game. They wanted that Kaisa, which is pretty strong, but then they thought, let's try the Sejuani, and this time they took Soraka. So they tried that Sejuani to Udyr, and it didn't work out as they planned, and they sadly didn't come out on top in that game.
And with the Soraka pick, we were mentioning earlier too, you beat Soraka by bursting. And I mean, when you're that far down, it is so easy just to get blown up, regardless of who you are. You be the tank and you still lose all your HP extremely quickly.
They definitely did that by bursting them.
Absolutely. But with that, we'll be closing out very shortly. First off, I do want to give a big thank you to the sponsors, of course, that do make this all happen, being St. Clair College, Zechelman School of Business and Information Technology, PC Outlet, the St. Clair College Alumni Association, and the St. Clair SRC, and of course, Tim Hortons. Big thank you for sponsoring the St. Clair Saints varsity esports team and making this all possible. Again, a big thank you to everybody for tuning in. I see about 20 some odd people in chat and whatnot in the chat. Whether you're here for the University of Toronto Mississauga or here for the hometown crowd of St. Clair, always a pleasure broadcasting to all of you, and thank you for supporting your team and your stream. And then big thank you to Matt, of course, for his first cast. How'd you enjoy it?
It was pretty good. Exciting series, definitely, to have for the first one. Back and forth. Third game, not so much. Kind of rolled over, but the first two, definitely a back and forth good series.
Sometimes you just run out of steam, and it seems like that was definitely the case for this one. But we better not run out of steam, because we're not done yet today. Of course, hopping over to our schedule momentarily here. Yes, here we go. Of course, on later on tonight, actually, 8 o'clock, we do have R6 Collegiate Championship action, Rainbow Six Siege. Looking forward to getting back in the swing of things there. And tomorrow, 5 p.m., Face It CSGO Week 3 action. Teams 1-1 right now. Let's see if they can keep it up in that W column. If you're here for League of Legends, well, you don't have to wait very long. Monday, 8 o'clock, we do have the Upsurge Minor Leagues returning once again, taking it to the amateur scene, not just strictly collegiate. This league team is really pushing it this year, and I absolutely love to see it. Nice CSGO, of course, returning Tuesday at 8 p.m. That's the season opener in that spot. Then Wednesday, more collegiate League of Legends action, this time versus the University of Waterloo, which if it's the team that I'm thinking of, that is going to be another tough one there for our St. Clair squad. But we'll have to see when we get there nonetheless. Of course, be sure, if you have not done so already, follow us on the Saints Gaming CA channel and make sure that you're notified for all the matches that do happen. And of course, Saints Gaming CA on Twitter as well for all of your updates necessary when in regards to matches, updates, rosters, all that good stuff. But otherwise, I think we're just about good here. Matt, thank you once again. And do you have any other final thoughts here for this League of Legends match?
No, other than it was a banger of a series. I think Toronto Mississauga played pretty well today, and I think our Saints did as well. They definitely tried their best in the third game, but they really showed a good performance in the first two. So definitely something to be proud of.
Absolutely. We'll see this team right back in the swing of things nice and soon as well. Shake it off, keep on pushing. I know I may give you guys a hard time, but it's only because I care. But nonetheless, we'll close out here for tonight. I will see everybody here right back on the channel for 8 o'clock for some Rainbow Six Siege action. And quickly run and get some food and speed run a setup of the stream, because it's going to be a fun night. Have a good night, everybody, or see you later on.